येन भूतले कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वतीदेवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यस्तारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरतुष्ये नमः हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्ते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विश्वभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा. So we are reading Bhakti Swami Sindhu, chapter 7 was going on. So what we have to do, we will be shifting between Prabhupada's purport and summary and our Bhakti Sindhu, Jiva Goswami's. So now Jiva Goswami is, Rupa Goswami is saying about the proof, evidences from scriptures, how the 64 limbs of bhakti are given in the different scriptures, and one has to follow those. So that's why he's giving the references, quotes. That is very, very important, because you give some process without reference, then it will be authentic, not authentic. Hmm? So non-authorized process will not work, because my guru has given, so I have to follow, but it should match with the Shastra. Hmm? So this is the evidence regarding devotional principles. So yes, devotees can open their videos or be present in the class. So we will read. Yes, Nandaraj Prabhu, you are there. You can read from here, 11th canto,
Yes,
7th chapter.
in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd chapter, verse 21, Prabhupada tells Maharaj Nimi, my dear king, please know for creation certain that in the material world there is no happiness. It is simply a mistake to think that there is happiness here, because this place is full of nothing but miserable conditions. Any person who is serious desirous of achieving real happiness must seek out a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. The qualification of spiritual master is that he must be
You must have realized.
must be realized. There is 1 minute, huh, Prabhuji?
Just realize the conclusion.
The qualification of spiritual master is that he realizes the conclusion of the scriptures by deliberation and arguments, and thus be able to convince others of these conclusions. Such great personalities who have taken shelter of Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material considerations, are to be understood as bona fide spiritual master. Everyone should try to find such bona fide spiritual master in order to fulfill his mission of life, which is to transfer himself to the planet of spiritual bliss.
Yeah, go ahead.
The purport is that one should not accept a spiritual master, someone who is fool, number one, who has no directions according to the scriptural injunctions, whose character is doubtful, who does not follow the principles of devotional service, or who has not conquered the influence of six sense gratification agents. The six agents of sense gratification are tongue, genitals, belly, anger, mind, and the words. Anyone who has practiced controlling these six in is permitted to take disciples all over the world. To accept such spiritual master is crucial point of advancement in spiritual life. One who is fortunate enough to come under the shelter of bona fide spiritual master is sure to traverse the path of spiritual salvation without any doubt.
Okay. So, Hare Krishna. Okay. So, what is happening here now? The evidence is given from the scriptures. So, Prabhupada is saying, first of all, there's a discussion between Nimi Maharaj and Prabuddha. So, one of the Nava Yogendra. So, Nava Yogendras were the son of Rishabdev. Rishabdev had 100 sons. So, out of that, 9 were Mahabhagavat. These are Nava Yogendras. So, it's coming in 11th canto where all such discussion happening. Nimi Maharaj is asking many questions. So, here, now, reply to one question is that anyone who thinks that one can enjoy this material world or there is some happiness, he is mistaken actually. And whatever happiness is there, it's very tuchha. Tuchha. Yan maithunadigrhamedi sukham hi tuchham. There also is mentioned. Prabhupada mentions that in the second canto also. So the happiness of sex life, which is the highest in the material world, it is not unreal because it's coming from the Lord directly from Virat Purusha. So it's not unreal, but in material world it becomes kulashit. Kulashit means tainted with a selfishness. So it is given for certain purpose for spiritual advancement. That one can produce children and one can produce Krishna conscious children and also engage in devotional service. And at the end of family life, then take to Banprastha and then go forward. So this is a spiritual advancement or spiritual benefit of that energy, the sex energy. So one gets satisfied in his life and then he becomes detached from that. He produces children and he becomes detached after certain period. So then it is okay. Otherwise, then it is said it is tainted with the material and gunas. So material gunas, it will give misery later. So that's why it's mentioned there's no happiness in this world. This material world is providing threefold miseries and fourfold problems, and the all the gunas are acting upon the soul when he is having this body. So the gunas are forcing the soul to enjoy in a certain way through the body, mind, and words. So they are forcing. So tamoguna is forcing in certain way, rajoguna certain way, satguna in certain way. So it's not that jiva is having the desire. Jiva is not having even desire, then still the modes will force him because he is captured. He got captured inside. So first thing, he forgot his own identity. Second thing, he started identifying with body and then with the world. So these things are there, and above that, the modes are also working. So therefore, he becomes captured prisoner inside the body and the world, and he's forced actually. He's forced. So unless he goes to Guru, and he awakens the chakshu inside chakshu, the inner eyes, chakshu. This is called Akshini. Akshini means outside eyes, Akshini. And internal eye is called Chakshu. So, Om Agyanti Mirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Unmilitam Yena. So, Guru awakens the inner eyes. The inner eyes has to be awakened. So, even the modes are working upon the person, his inner eyes are awakened, so he will not act according to those modes. He will see the modes are working on my body, on my mind, but I am aloof from it. So, that's why one requires a Guru. Otherwise, he becomes captured. So then Prabhupada says, any person who seriously desires for achieving real happiness, he must seek out spiritual master. So the first thing, or the first thing in the process of getting real happiness is to accept a spiritual master, bona fide spiritual master, and take initiation. So Prabhupada is mentioning Ado Guru Pada Ashraya. First is. Then Krishna Diksha Adi Sikshanam. So one has to take initiation from Guru. And initiation does two things. What are those? Diksha. Diksha means what? Anyone? Divya Gyan. So Divya Gyan, what? Guru gives the Divya Gyan. And then Papa. Sha means Papa. Divya means Divya Gyan. And Sha means Papa Shaya. It takes away the sin. That is Diksha. The sins means those who are unfavorable to devotional service, hindrance in devotional service, those are taken away so that a disciple can practice. And Divya Gyan are given. So in this way, the disciple is elevated from his material condition to practicing sadhaka condition. Very, very important. Unless one is sinless, one does not enter into pure devotional service. Unless one is sinless, one does not enter into pure devotional service. So, therefore, you find the pure devotional service, because it's a continuous, it never breaks. So, even though the devotee is attached also to something, he will be lamenting, repenting. So that because he has a faith, but he does not have a strength enough to overcome the temptations. So, so, so in that condition also is called sinless, in the sense why? Because he is accepting his miserable condition and he is surrendering to the Lord. That time also he is called sinless. Even though he may sometimes do some sense gratification, but he is called sinless. The reason is because he is having the shraddha and he is lamenting. But if one does not lament, one starts thinking that, okay, no issue. One does not lament. So then what happens? He does not have that much shraddha. And at that time, he is not sinful. He is not sinless. So sinless means dridvrataha. Sinless, therefore, Esham Twantagatam Papam Jananam Punya Karmanam Te Dvandra Moha Nirmuktam Bhajante Mam Dridvrataha. Dridvrata. Very, very important. व्रत है, व्रत गलत लिखा है, नॉट ब्रीता, सर व्रत. व्रत, दृढ़व्रता. So dridvrata, sinless means dridvrata, and he becomes free from three-fold miseries. Sorry, not miseries, the three gunas. The bhajante man dridvrataha. So before that it comes yesham tantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvanda moha nirmuktam. Dvanda moha. The moha, he will become free from that, and therefore he is able to practice Dhrida Bhakti. See, it is very, very important to understand what is the use of Shastra and what is the use of devotional service. So, as we read, the Shastra, we have to get faith from Shastra. Shastra Shraddha. Shastra Shraddha. And so, Shastri Shraddha is there. We are reading scriptures, then we are getting Shastri Shraddha. Then what happens? That gives us knowledge and also mercy to practice, that thing. To practice the bhakti. But at the same time, that Shraddha should also come in this sense that I am eternal servant of Lord, I am a fallen personality, I have to take shelter of the Lord. So this is called bhakti. This humility is produced by bhakti. Very, very important. This humility is produced by bhakti. So he has Shastri Shraddha because he knows where I have to go. He knows that because of Shastri Shraddha, where I have to go and where am I. And he is humble. He's practicing bhakti, not able to practice bhakti fully, but he's having Shraddha. He knows that my spiritual master said, the scripture says, but I'm not up to the mark. So this is called humility. So he should be humble, taking shelter of the Lord. So this is a very, very important thing. Now, if somebody says to become sinless means to follow the rules or regulations fully, but it is not possible because we are not like Gyanis. Even Gyanis fall down. So we don't talk about the rules. We talk about the increase the Shraddha of a person. So even though he sometimes commits mistakes also, he repents. That is the whole point of bhakti. Uh, so sometimes we may think that I have to overcome my lust, my anger, my greed, all these things. This should happen with the salve of bhakti. This should happen with the salve of bhakti means what? Even if some decides also, I will get rid of everything. You will not, you cannot get rid actually. Because unless the Shraddha increases, the Shraddha has to increase. The Shraddha has to increase. Unless the bhakti process increases, all other process will fall down. Or there is a mixture. And we cannot tolerate, oh, how can I do this thing? So sinless is very, very important. But how to become sinless? Because those who are those who are doing bhakti, even if they fall down, there is no other process other than bhakti to take. So bhakti only uplifts them, bhakti only nourishes them and takes them ahead. So this point we should be very clear. So this is a point. So one can try to become humble in service of the Lord, in glorifying Vaishnava, in rendering some service. So this is a bhakti path. This is the way we have to become humble. This is the way we have to become tolerant and other things. Not that we have to become tolerant in thinking that I will follow some vows and then I will become very, very strongly following. That will not happen unless you are advanced in bhakti. Therefore, Prabhupada says you cannot chant like Haridas Thakur. It's not possible. Because that requires faith. Does not require some vow. Even if you take vow, it will not happen. Or it will happen for some days. And Prabhupada said, no need to go to Radha Kund. To some many people he said. Because they are not that much elevated. They cannot go there. They will think simply sitting and chanting will help. But it will not help. So this is a process. So bhakti means then read scriptures, increase your shraddha, chant holy name, increase your shraddha, do bhakti, increase your shraddha. You have to increase your shraddha and understand that I am a fallen conditioned soul and take shelter of the Lord. In this way, one becomes sinless and continuous in bhakti. And then gradually this anartha will also go away. Now, any person who is seriously desirous of achieving real happiness, okay. The qualification now is mentioned, we have read in that Bhakti Sindhu commentary. What is the qualification? Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam. So, Tasmat Guru Prapadyeta, Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam and Brahmanishtham, Upasamashrayam. So, Guru ka qualities bataya ki Brahmanishtham, Upasamashrayam. These things should happen. What is that? Tasmat Guru Prapadyeta, Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam, Sabde Parecha Nishnatam, Brahmani Upasamashrayam. So these are what Prabhupada mentions here. So Sabde Parecha Nishnatam. He must have realized the conclusion of the scriptures by deliberation and arguments, and thus be able to convince others with this conclusion. ठीक है, प्रौढ़ श्रद्धा है, इसकी बात कही जा रही है, प्रौढ़ श्रद्धा. Spiritual master, basically, he is a quite, so see, conclusion of a scripture मतलब कैसे आएगा? He has to realize. First, you have to study also, na? Then only you will realize. And then deliberation and argument, both. Deliberation means one's own deliberation. You are deliberating upon those statements, and arguments means you are convincing others. So you are preaching. So you are practicing internally also, and you are preaching also. So that is called, by this one becomes a spiritual master. then such a great personality who have taken shelter of Supreme Lord, leaving aside all material consideration, are understood to be the bona fide spiritual master. ठीक है. So they have given up all material consideration. They have no worry about family or their body and other things. Basically, they understand Krishna is maintaining everyone. So material consideration, they don't worry much. That is called spiritual master. Everyone should try to find a bona fide spiritual master and perfect his life. Now, our spiritual master should not be fool number one. With no direction from scriptural injunction. He does not know scripture. His character is also doubtful. So then we cannot take initiation from such a spiritual master, and who has not controlled six Vacho Begam, Manasa Krodh Begam, Jihva Begam, Udra Upastu Begam. So all these Vegas are not controlled, so then he does not qualify to become a spiritual master. Now somebody can say, Yehi Krishna Tattvaveta se Guru hoye. What is that? So Krishna Tattvaveta will not happen as mentioned here. Krishna Tattvaveta. This is Krishna Tattvaveta. Conclusion of his scriptures. He has already come to know. And he has given up all material consideration. So it's correct. So this will not happen unless he has control in mind and senses. The knowledge is not simply Shastric knowledge, not information. It's a transformed, realized knowledge. It's a transform, means it has transformed the person, and also it's a realized knowledge. To accept such a spiritual master is a crucial point for advancement in spiritual life. One who is fortunate enough to come under shelter of the bona fide spiritual master is sure to traverse the path of spiritual salvation. Yes, please go ahead. Sage Prabhupada.
The attitude of disciples should be to satisfy the bona fide spiritual master. Then it will be very easy for him to understand spiritual knowledge.
अच्छा,
This is
यहाँ तक पढ़ दिया था क्या? यहाँ तक हो गया था क्या?
oh
एटीट्यूड
sorry
से चालू.
ऊपर से था right says
प्रबुद्धा.
Prabhupada, yeah. Says Prabhupada continued to speak to King as follows. My dear King, a disciple has to accept spiritual master not only as a spiritual master, but also as a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the Super Soul. In other words, the disciple should not accept the spiritual master as God, because he is external manifestation of Krishna. This is confirmed in every scripture, and disciples should accept the spiritual master as such. One should learn Srimad Bhagavatam seriously and with all respect and venerations of spiritual master. Hearing and speaking Srimad Bhagavatam is religious process which elevates one to the platform of serving and loving the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So, one thing, like spiritual master is God or human? What he is? Who is he? What do you say? Spiritual
He is
master is God or human?
representative of God.
The representative of God. So then, where does he fall? He fall in which category? God or human?
Human.
Human. Okay. And who say he is God? So we have heard many times that he is not a God, but we have not heard many times that he is not a human also. Okay, so he is neither God nor human. So Krishna says that acharimam bijaniya na avmanyet karhechit na marta buddhya na marta buddhya असूयेता. मर्त बुद्धिया असूयेता मतलब उनको एक मॉडल की तरह समझना, वो ह्यूमन है, ये भी नारी की बुद्धि है. तो नीदर इज अ ह्यूमन नॉर इज अ गॉड. ही इज अ रिप्रेजेंटेटिव ऑफ गॉड and he's respected like God. He may be also doing some activities like a human, but that is not considered to be the on human platform. Like God also, we wake up God in altar. We also bathe God. So we do a sort of upchar. We feed God. So we may start thinking that God is like us. He also needs some food. He also needs some these things. So we may start thinking like that. But God's position is not like that. He is doing out of love. In the similar way, spiritual master, he is a Chaitya Guru inside and spiritual master outside, hmm, as a Diksha or a Siksha, so whatever. So therefore, he is in between actually. He should be respected like God, respected like God. And he behaves like a human. ठीक है ना? He behaves like a human, but he is respected like God. So these two things. So he is neither human nor God. Hmm. So therefore, it's mentioned one should not only see a spiritual master as a spiritual master, but also as a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's very, very important. That don't see only as a human, we should also see as a representative, means he should be respected like a God. So he's in between. Huh? And one should learn the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, Srimad Bhagavatam, why it's mentioned? Because what one has to learn from Guru, one has to learn Srimad Bhagavatam seriously from a spiritual master, with all respect and veneration for spiritual master. And then how it is to be learned? It is to be learned by again hearing and loving and service to the spiritual master. So like Vishrambhena Guru Seva. So that comes here. Hmm? Yes, please go ahead. The attitude of the disciple. अच्छा कोई और पढ़ेगा. Hmm.
The attitude of disciples should be to satisfy the bona fide spiritual master. Then it will be very easy for him to understand spiritual knowledge. Then it will be okay. This is confirmed in Vedas, and Rupa Goswami will further explain that for a person who has unflinching faith in God and spiritual master, everything becomes revealed very easily. Regarding serving the spiritual master, in 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 17th chapter, verse 27, it is stated by Lord Krishna, "My dear Uddhava, the spiritual master must be accepted not only as my representative but as my very self. He must never be considered on the same level with the ordinary human being. One should never be envious of the spiritual master, as one may be envious of an ordinary man. The spiritual master should always be seen as representative of Supreme Personality of Godhead. And by serving the spiritual master, one is able to serve all the demigods." In Skanda Puran, it is advised that devotee follow the past acharyas and saintly person, because by such following one can achieve the desired result, which no chance of lamentation or being baffled in his progress.
Okay. So here it's mentioned in NOI, Upadeshamrit, it is mentioned the advancement of a follower depends upon his attitude, or the attitude of a follower decides one's advancement, correct? So what is that attitude here mentioned? The attitude of disciple should be to satisfy spiritual master. Again, Yash Prasad Bhagavad Prasado or Vyavasayatmika Buddhi Eke Kurunandana. So this is the attitude of a disciple. To satisfy the spiritual master, and then it will be very easy for him to understand spiritual knowledge. So again mentioned that a person with unflinching faith in God and spiritual master, yasya deve parabhakti yatha deva tatha guru, that sloka is there. And here again Uddhav Gita. So in Uddhav Gita, Lord Krishna is telling to Uddhava ki same thing, what I just quoted the sloka, that Acharya Mam Bijaniya. So there, same sloka is translated here. One should never be envious of a spiritual master. One may be envious of an ordinary man. See, so somebody can say that one should not be envious of devotees. Okay, so it is possible that one can be envious of a spiritual master also. It is possible. That's why it's mentioned here. So one should not be. That's why Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahe Tejasvina Vadhitamastu Ma Vidyasavahe. That shloka says, this mantra, it says that Om Sahana Vavatu means we all together, the spiritual master and the disciple, should learn knowledge, should become free from envy, should energize each other, hmm, and should please the Lord, basically. So become free from envy, become free from lethargy, become free from conditioned mentality while we are coming for learning. So, like Bhut Suddhi happens while worshipping deities. So before study, also, a disciple and guru, they recite this mantra. This is in Taitra Upanishad. So, it's an important thing. So one should not envy, because one should think that spiritual master. Envy happens for one who is higher than us. We may become envious of sometimes that personality. But one should give up that envy, and understand that he is a representative of the Supreme Lord. Now a devotee follows the past acharya and saintly person. This is called sadhu vartmanu vartante. That portion is given here. Because by such following one achieves the desired result with no chance of lamenting or being baffled in the progress. This is a फायदा, ये फायदा benefit है कि when we follow the devotees or the sadhus, then we do not lament, or being baffled in his progress. It is specifically devotee guides nicely in spiritual life. For other things, one can also consult some other experts, but especially for spiritual life, one should sadhu vartmanu vartante. Hmm. Yes, Sonmai Gorang Mataji, you can lead. The scripture known as Brahma Yamala.
The scriptures known as Brahma Yamala states as follows. If someone wants to pose himself as a great devotee without following the authoritative of the revealed scriptures, then his activities will never help him to make progress in devotional service. Instead, he will simply create disturbances for the sincere students of the devotional service. Those who do not strictly follow the principles of revealed scriptures are generally called Sahajiyas, those who have imagined everything to be cheap, who have their own concocted ideas, and who do not follow the scriptural injunctions. Those who do not follow the scriptural injunction. Such a persons are simply creating disturbances in the discharge of devotional service. In this connection, an objection may be raised by those who are not in devotional service and who do not care for the revealed scriptures. An example of this is seen in Buddhist philosophy. Lord Buddha appeared in the family of high-grade Kshatriya king, but his philosophy was not in accord with the Vedic conclusions and therefore was rejected. Under the patronage of a Hindu king, Maharaja Ashoka, the Buddhist religion was spread all over India and the adjoining countries. However, after the appearance of the great stalwart teacher Shankaracharya, this Buddhism was driven out beyond the borders of India. The Buddhists or other religions who do not care for revealed scriptures sometimes say that there are many devotees of Lord Buddha who show devotional service to Lord Buddha and who therefore should be considered devotees. In answer to this argument, Rupa Goswami says that the follower of Buddha cannot be accepted as devotee. Although Lord Buddha is accepted as an incarnation of Krishna, the follower of such an incarnation are not very advanced in their knowledge of the Vedas. To study the Vedas means to come to the conclusion of the supremacy of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, any religious principle which denies the supremacy of the personality of Godhead is not accepted and is called atheism. Atheism means defying the authority of the
Veda.
Vedas and decrying the great acharyas who teach Vedic scriptures for the benefit of the people in general. Shall I continue, Prabhuji?
1 minute. So very very important here discussion happening. So now श्रुति स्मृति पुराणादि पंचरात्रिकीं विधिमिना ऐकांतिकी हरेर भक्ति उत्पाते व कल्पते. Now ऐकांतिकी भक्ति, ऐकांतिक भक्ति means we already read ऐकांतिक भक्तास, नारायण पारायण भक्तास, हनुमान, रुक्मिणी, Lakshmi, like that, and Uddhava and gopis. So now it's mentioned, if somebody poses oneself great devotee without following the authorities of the revealed scriptures, especially authorities of revealed scriptures are Mahajanas and then present acharyas, then his activity will never help him to make progress in devotional service. So, those who do not strictly follow the principle of revealed scripture, they are called sahajiyas. They do not follow. So, what kind of following should be there of a scripture? Strict following should be there. And those who imagine everything so cheap. In modern times, this is a thing actually. Because people don't want to follow scripture and still they want to call themselves a spiritual being or advanced, in the sense like sometimes we discuss about a relationship on the YouTube. Sometimes people uh, but see what is important. Hmm, this is a thing, what is important, like one is called becoming a religious person, like non-religious, religious. So animal life is it's an animalistic life. There is no question of religion there. Means no religion, animalistic life. Then comes civilized life. Means somebody follows some religion, even karma kanda life. So this is a civilized life. And then after civilized life, one follows the path of yoga. He wants to now get rid of his inclination to enjoy this world, and he wants to start giving to God. So when the beginning of the civilized life happened in Karma Kanda, so there people basically they were connecting to God for their enjoyment, and in animal life there is no connection to God. That is atheistic life fully. They simply want to enjoy without any connection with God. At least in civilized life, people are connecting to God and enjoying. In Yoga Marg, they are giving up their enjoyment process only, and they are connecting to God only. And the highest is Bhakti Yoga. So, this is the path. So, Sahajiyas, because they do not follow scripture at all, or they do not follow scripture. So, if you do not follow scripture, so then better you get a name of civilized person or animal person or non-civilized. Panchama. So even civilized person can follow some scripture, not very strictly. Then why you are going towards the yoga path? Yoga path, if you wants to come and follow, then yoga path is quite a strict path. Then one has to follow very strictly, and no desire for material enjoyment, or one has to get rid of those desires. So they are into, even if they're following some principles and they are doing something nonsense also. So they are not even civilized people also. They are going down in animalistic life. That is why what is important to bring people to religious life is important, or to just speculate on YouTube and tell that be happy in this way or that way. What is more important? What do you think? If you bring people to religious life, religious life means you follow Mahabharata, you follow some Purana, something you follow, and don't commit sin. Stop sin, or just speculate. You will remain happy, or you will be having good relationship with husband and wife, and this is a real love. All these things will be telling. But okay, whatever you're telling, good, but tell from scriptures. Quote some scripture like Guru Goswami Prabhupada is quoting, so that people will get benefit of following something, not like Sahajiyas. That they follow some YouTube speaker and say that we are also a spiritual being. अरे spirituality किधर आता है? तुम धार्मिक भी नहीं हो, spirituality कहाँ से हो गया? सो कहने का मतलब यही है कि किसी भी प्रोसेस को ठीक से फॉलो करना है, स्पेकुलेशन को नहीं फॉलो करना है. Strictly, it is mentioned, one should follow strictly the principle of revealed scriptures. They do not follow, therefore they are sahajiyas. And they imagine that everything is so easy to achieve. So this is sahajiyapan. This is also this kind of preaching also. You don't preach a scripture also and still give them the authority of becoming a spiritual being. This is also sahajiyapan. लोगों को sahajiyapan बना देता है. कोई बात नहीं, ये भी चलता है, वो भी चलता. तो इसीलिए स्क्रिप्चर का प्रचार करना जरूरी है. अब स्क्रिप्चर के प्रचार करने में कौन आएगा? बुद्ध आ गए। अब बुद्ध की जहां तक बात है तो बुद्ध ने तो स्क्रिप्चर का प्रचार ही नहीं किया। मतलब प्रचार करने मतलब यहाँ पे अब बुद्ध को क्यों निकाल दिया गया? अब देखो बुद्ध का तो फिलॉसफी भी है, कुछ तो है, वो भी क्या है? स्पेकुलेशन है वो भी। बुद्ध का फिलॉसफी भी स्पेकुलेशन है। अहिंसा परमो धर्म, अहिंसा वेर इज द परम धर्म। इट्स नॉट परम धर्म, इट्स उपधर्म, इट्स नॉट परम धर्म, सो इट्स स्पेकुलेशन नाउ। लाइक भारत माता की जय, वंदे मातरम, दिस इज हाईएस्ट रिलीजन, दिस इज अगेन स्पेकुलेशन। So Buddha is not considered to be the follower of, he's a God himself, incarnation of God. But the Buddhists, those who follow Buddha, they are not to be taken as proper follower of scriptures. Therefore, they are rejected. They are not devotees. They cannot be called as the devotees. Hmm. And neither they can be called as the civilized people also. Because there is no scripture following. Nastika, Astika. Astik means one who follows scriptures. Astik. And Nastik means he does not follow. So therefore, Buddha highly Nastik. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says the followers of the Buddhas are called Nastik. They are not called Astik. They do not accept Vedas. So somebody can say, but what about Christians and others? Are they following? They are following some acharyas. Okay. Who? Jesus. If they follow their acharyas who have given some instruction from revealed scriptures, so still they can be considered civilized according to. But if they want to somehow speculate something else, like thou shall not kill, thou shall not murder, इसमें क्या स्पेकुलेशन आ गया? If they're speculating something, then they are not even civilized. Civilization का मतलब क्या? Aryans. Aryans means who follow some scripture, some Vedas. They have to follow. Wherever one is, whether one is a karma kandi, follow karma kanda. Where if you are a bhakta, follow bhakta. But these people do not follow anything. But still they want to consider themselves religious, or they want to consider themselves as yogi, big yogis. हाँ, ये गड़बड़ है, ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए. So therefore, everything should come in this direction. We are learning from first spiritual master should have realized the conclusion of scriptures for bhakti marga. For even for other marga also, if he is a karma kanda guru, so then he should have read the karma kanda scripture properly, and then he should teach to his disciple. Then is karma kanda guru. So here is a speculation. Under the patronage of Asoka, the Buddhist religion was spread. So why it was spread? Because Asoka got influenced. वो भी अशोक क्यों इन्फ्लुएंस हो गया? वो थोड़ा उसको भी सेंटिमेंटल राजा. He got influence. He saw so many people dying. So let me accept some religion by which no killing will be happening. Like Arjuna. If Arjuna को कृष्ण नहीं मिलते तो अर्जुन दूसरा अशोक हो जाता. पहला अशोक अर्जुन होते. पहला अशोक अर्जुन हो जाते. बोलते कि मैं यही प्रचार करता हूँ. तो अर्जुन को कृष्ण मिल गए इसलिए वो पहले अशोक नहीं बने. तो फिर दूसरा अशोक आ गया आगे चल के. तो उसने बुद्धिस्ट फिलोसफी फैला दिया. अहिंसा, अहिंसा करो. और फिर तीसरे अशोक आगे मारे गांधी जी. उन्होंने भी बोला एक चाटा मारो तो दूसरा गाल कर दो. तो ये तीसरे है. तो पहले अशोक को तो बचा लिया भगवान ने, बाकी दो अशोक गिर गए. So here it's mentioned the Buddhist or other religionists who do not care about the revealed scriptures sometimes say that they are many devotees of Lord Buddha, so devotional service to Buddha. तो उनको हम कंसीडर नहीं करते. रूप गोस्वामी पाद बोलते हैं नो, दे आर नॉट कंसीडर्ड डिवोटीज इवन दो दे आर. नाउ दत्तात्रेय, even Dattatreya also, there are philosophies of Dattatreya. Somebody is worshipping Dattatreya, they cannot be considered devotees because उनका भी philosophy पूरा शास्त्र से मैच नहीं करता है. Impersonalism is there. Even somebody wants to follow impersonalism also, one should follow from scripture. ठीक है, it's impersonalism. But there is also the higher form of gods. But we only want impersonalist. We want to become impersonalist and we want him to merge in God's yeah, form. God's form or God's prakash. So that is also okay. That is also proper. ठीक है, जाओ उधर. लेकिन मायावादीज, they are aparadhis. So they are not following the scripture properly. They consider that Lord's form is Maya. So that is again not following the scriptures. Now to study the Vedas means to come to the conclusion of supremacy of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, any religious principle which denies the supremacy of the personality of Godhead is not accepted and is called atheism. बहुत सिंपल है. अभी कोई विष्णु को नहीं मानते हैं कि ये सबसे श्रेष्ठ है, हाँ? तो अगर इम्पर्सनलिस्ट भी उसको मानना चाहिए कि भगवान है, और वो श्रेष्ठ हैं, फिर भी मेरे को ये चाहिए, चलेगा? Atheism means defying the authority of the Vedas and decrying the great acharyas who teach the Vedic scriptures for the benefit of the people in general. So, benefit of people will only happen when we try to speak from dharma. Try to speak dharma. Or even if you're speaking something not dharma, then you should be empowered enough to speak. Like Jesus Christ came. He did not give many religious principles, but he spoke from religious scriptures only. And he told, okay, you follow this thing. At least this much you follow. So he was empowered Acharya. So Prabhupada says Jesus we cannot decry because he is still sent by the God. And whatever the level of people, he gave some knowledge to them. So when we are giving some knowledge also to the people, try to connect it to the scriptures. That is the whole thing. Then it is bona fide. At that level, it is bona fide. If somebody simply speaking speculation, ऐसे कर लो वैसे कर लो, तो वो केवल वो is not doing benefit to the journal actually. People will be simply engaged in sense gratification and they'll go to hell. Because आप नाम नहीं ले सकते कि मैं ये बाबा को फॉलो किया तो मेरे को हेल नहीं जाना पड़ेगा, वो बाबा भी जाएगा तो हम भी जाएंगे फिर, है कि नहीं? अगर कोई बोलेगा कि मैंने जीसस को फॉलो किया तो एटलीस्ट जीसस उसको बचाएंगे, बिकॉज जीसस इज अ सन ऑफ गॉड. बट यूट्यूब का बाबा है या यूट्यूब के व्यक्ति है, वो उसका नाम लेके वो कहाँ जाने वाला है? दिस इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. Some connection to Mahabharata, some connection to some scripture must be there. Otherwise, people will be swayed away. So, it is important thing. Okay. Now, Lord Buddha is accepted as an incarnation of Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but in the same Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that the Lord Buddha appeared in order to bewilder the atheistic class of men. This is his position. Therefore, his philosophy is meant for bewildering the atheist and should not be accepted. देखो ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. कभी कभी फिलोसफी बिल्डर करने के लिए होता है. Like some Gorangpu sometimes says, some people ask question कि Gorangpu, you are speaking this thing on Instagram or YouTube to outside people. So he's many times he said, I'm just doing it to bewilder people, to just create doubt in their life that they cannot be happy by the process they are already accepted. So, but if we hear his talks and thinking और गोरंगपू बोल रहे बाबा सुनना चाहिए, तो आपको बिल्डर नहीं होना चाहिए, वो उनके लिए. So he was saying, Kyari, I am making stuffs for the outside people, but I am seeing the most of the likes are coming from devotees only. Devotees are watching more than the outsiders. इसका मतलब क्या हो गया कि वो बुद्धा फिलोसफी से हम ही बिल्डर हो रहे हैं. तो वी शुड नॉट गेट बिल्डर. सो इसमें बिल्डिंग करने के लिए, ताकि इन लोगों में थोड़ा डाउट क्रिएट हो कि यार सेंस ग्रेटिफिकेशन वास्तव में सही है क्या, सही है क्या. बट वो रिलीजन नहीं है. ही इज नॉट प्रीचिंग सम रिलीजियस पाथ कि ऐसे करो. तो वो थोड़ा टिक बिट्स ऐसे दे दिया तो लोगों को थोड़ा डाउट हो जाता है, मैं जो कर रहा हूँ क्या सही है क्या, ऐसा. एंड देन दे स्टार्ट सर्चिंग फॉर सम बेटर पाथ. So he did like that. So that is not to be religion. So that's why one has to be careful. YouTube talks are not the right roadmap for one's advancement. No, many times it's done for certain purpose. It's not purity. It's not a purity. वो purity नहीं है, उसमें कुछ clear नहीं होता है. So one has to come to devotees, understand scripture properly, then one can go ahead. आगे, why should a Krishna propagate atheistic principles? The answer is that it was a desire for the Supreme Personality of Godhead to end the violence which was then being committed in the name of the Vedas. So just it was a time when Krishna did this thing. It means he also preached something like atheism. So when he preached, because it was a need of a time, but people made it a process. This is a problem actually. होता क्या है कि कोई कॉन्टेक्स्ट होता है हर एक चीज का, लेकिन उस कॉन्टेक्स्ट को समझे बिना कोई अगर उसको एब्सोल्यूट मान लेता है कि वही बुद्ध है, भगवान है, भगवान कैसे ऐसा बोल सकते हैं, भगवान ही बोलेंगे तो सब अमृत है, चन्ना अमृत है, मुखा अमृत है, तो लेना ही चाहिए, भगवान को हम कैसे रिजेक्ट कर सकते हैं. तो इसीलिए आचार्य बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट, जो आचार्य बोलते हैं उसको पालन करना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. सिंपली गोइंग बाय सेंटिमेंट विल नॉट सॉल्व द इश्यू फॉर एनी वन, so called anyone. Like many people say that Tulsidas Tulsidas is an incarnation of Hanumanji. So now Shankaracharya is also incarnation of Shiva, Lord Shiva. So then we should read the scripture of everything, everyone. So therefore Prabhupada says you cannot read because there is a mixture of Mayavad. The mixture of Mayavad. Person may be very advanced, like Buddha is very advanced, no problem. You pay obeisances. But when it is told by Acharya there is some mixture of Mayavad, then why we should quote the history of the person कि वो वहां से है, बाबा भगवान शिव है, बुद्ध है. अरे लेकिन प्रचार क्या कर रहे हैं? उनके प्रचार को आप समझो पहले. प्रचार में मिक्सचर है. दत्तात्रेय खुद भगवान विष्णु है, बट प्रचार क्या कर रहे हैं? So you cannot accept their philosophies. We can respect them. In the similar way, same for many saints also. So we have to follow the Acharya. This is the whole thing. We are discussing basis on this basis. The so-called religionists were falsely using the Vedas to justify such violent act as meat eating. And Lord Buddha came to lead fallen people away from such a false interpretation of the Vedas. Also, for the atheist, Lord Buddha preached atheism so that they would follow him and thus be tricked into devotional service to Lord Buddha or Lord Krishna. They must be tricked. मतलब ऐसा होता है कि जैसे like some devotee is preaching something. If in but it does not happen, it may happen, may not happen. Now that people may get connected to the devotees and then devotee then get them connected to some great personality, then it is okay, very nice, okay. Like somebody is preaching something and some people get connected to him and then gradually they get connected to more proper, or you can say like a devotee who is preaching Krishna consciousness. So then it is a good way. So it is bewildered. So people are bewildered and then they're brought to the right path. That is what Buddha also did. So Buddha's followers are not devotees, but if they take to Krishna's principle later, then they can be devotees. So there are two talks we discussed. In the beginning, we discussed we should not preach any substandard things, because that is not the job of a spiritual master. That is not a job of even those who try to do benefit of the people. But then we saw also that Buddha, he did that. Shankaracharya, he also did that to work in certain situation, how to resolve the issue. But then it will create problem for future. Like there's a Mayavad. Prabhupada has to write so many purport against Mayavad because Mayavad came into existence by Shankaracharya. Buddhism also came by the Buddhas. So then Prabhupada has to just defeat against all those principles. So it was done at certain time, but it really created a great loss also. So in a similar way, somebody is preaching substandard knowledge on YouTube, so it will also do benefit. It will also do some great problem later, future. It may happen. तो दोनों होगा वो, जैसे बुद्धा का हुआ और शंकराचार्य का भी अभी तक चल रहा है. तो इसी तरह से आप देख सकते हैं हर एक पाथ में कोई बाबा आके आ गया, कोई बाबा ने कुछ बोल दिया, उसको लोग फॉलो करने लगे. सत्य साईं जैसे ये अपना सदगुरु, सदगुरु इज क्वाइट फेमस. So many people are following him. And then after he leaves the world, then they will make his temple. हमको टेम्पल बना देंगे उसका, फिर टेम्पल बना के उसके फॉलोअर अलग हो जाएंगे फिर. तो and whether he is bringing people to devotees, that is another question. So like that, it is quite risky path. It has to be done under authorities. Then it will like Buddha is the Bhagwan himself. Shankaracharya again is under the guidance of Lord Vishnu. He did that. In the Naradiya Puran, it is said, if one is actually very serious about devotional service, then all of his purposes will be solved without any delay. In the Padma Puran, it is stated, one who has given up the material sense enjoyment and has accepted the principle of devotional service, the opulence of Vishnu Loka is awaiting. These are the benefits mentioned. One is, if one is serious, very serious, then all his purposes will be solved without delay. So Bhakti Maharani fulfills all the other purpose. Because he is serious. Serious means what? Serious means he has no ulterior motive. He is serious. He understands that chanting is important and I have to chant with attention. I have to serve with attention and with love. So he is serious about it, the process. And then here mentioned, one who has given up material enjoyment and taken to Bhakti, then the Vishnu Loka, he will go to Vishnu Loka. In the Skand Purana, it is also mentioned that a person who has lived in Dwarka for 6 months or a month or even for a fortnight, so Vaikuntha Lok, he can go. And all the profit of Sarupya Mukti, so he will also get the uh, profit of Sarupya Mukti just by staying in Dwarka for 15 days. Like that. This is important thing that Bhakti, like there's a story called so now Narada meets now Lord Vishnu says to Narada that you should chant the name of mine, and whosoever comes to you, you give him holy name. You chant my name sincerely. So Narada goes, and then he meets one reptile, some snake, and then he meets a snake, and he tells the snake chant Hare Krishna, and the snake chants and he dies. Then Narada thinks, अरे ये क्या हो गया, मैंने इसको इनिशिएशन दिया, वो मर गया. Then he met one dog. After some years, he met a dog. And again, he told him to chant holy name. And the dog chanted, he died. Then Narada think, अरे गड़बड़ हो रहा है क्या, ये मंत्र देते तो लोग मर जा रहे हैं. Then again, after some years, he saw one cow. He again told cow, chant holy name. And as soon as cow chanted, cow died. नारद अरे तो गो हत्या हो गया, जिसको होली नेम बोलना जब करने को वही मर जा रहा है. Then Narad Muni again, after some years, he saw one prince, the son of a king. Then he was doubtful. If I give him initiation, then मेरा ही गला कट जाएगा. इसको ये मर जाएगा तो फिर मेरे को राजा चढ़ा देगा फांसी में. But फिर भी he was quite compassionate and he said, "Oh, prince, please chant holy name." He chanted, and then he chanted, start dancing. So he said, "Why are you dancing?" So he said that, Narad Muni, don't you remember? I have been meeting you since 3-4 births before. What is that? I just saw you just now. How 3-4 births before? He said, I was first snake, then I became dog. When you gave holy name, I chanted, I became dog, then I became cow, then I became human. And now you're giving me process. Now I have to practice it properly and go back to water. Now you just see. So because they had some aparadhas in their body of even snake and cow or dog. One holy name can purify and take the dog also to a spiritual world. But because they have some aparadhas, so holy name acted in certain extent. So then he went from a snake to dog to cow to human. This is what happens actually. So this is how holy name helps to animals also and trees also. So next birth will not be exactly like evolutionary process. They will be advancing faster. And if they have no offenses, even from the body of a snake also one can go back to Godhead. But one will go to, like here as mentioned, like here, Iskanda Puran. Like by staying in Dwarka, one goes to Sarup Mukti, one gets. So how, now somebody can ask, but Prabhuji ऐसा होता है क्या? तो हम भी तो स्टे किए. अब डिपेंड किस पे करता है. आपका वो पुण्य है जाने का, लेकिन वो कितने जन्म में फ्रक्टिफाई होगा, धीरे धीरे होगा. जैसे जगन्नाथ का रथ का पुल किया हमने, उसमें बोलते वैकुंठ चले जाओगे, लेकिन अगर हमारे अपराध रहेंगे तो वो फिर और भक्ति करेंगे तो वो अपराध खत्म होने चाहिए. तो वो उस एक्टिविटी का उतना पावर है, बट अपराध के कारण से वो पावरफुल नहीं है उतना. So that's why slowly, gradually the aparadh goes away and then one starts getting the benefit of bhakti. तो वैसे तो पावर है होली नेम का पहुंचाने का, उसमें कोई डाउट नहीं है, लेकिन अपराध के कारण से वो नहीं होता है. So there is a gradual transmigration here. Now, the transcendental significance of Purushottam Kshetra, which is 80 square mile of Lord Jagannath, can be properly described. Even the demigods, they see also that like 400 forms we discussed last time. When there was a meeting of the great sages at Naimisharanya, Sut Goswami was reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, and the importance of Ganges was stated as follows. The water of the Ganges are always carrying the flavor of tulsi offered at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. As such, the water of the Ganges are ever flowing, spreading the glories of Lord. Whenever the water of the Ganges are flowing, all will be sanctified both internally and externally. So this is about residing near Ganges, residing near Dwarka. So that topic we are discussing. In the Naradiya Puran, it is directed one should not accept more than necessary if he is serious about discharging devotional service. The purport is that one should not neglect the following the principles of devotional service, nor should one accept the rules of devotional service which are more than what one can easily perform. Hmm. Again, this was a discussion last time also that Prabhupada says it may be said that one should chant the Hare Krishna mantra at least 100,000 times daily on the beats. How many? 1 lakh. So 1 lakh holy name daily. But if this is not possible, then one must minimize his chanting according to his one's capacity. Generally, we recommend our disciple to chant at least 16 rounds. This was what discussion uh, last time that one should follow the rules which you can follow easily, not that very tough vow we can take. It's not easy for us. So therefore, Prabhupada says, therefore we have to minimize the number of rounds according to our capacity. So Prabhupada minimized it and gave us 16 rounds. Prabhupada understood this is good, this much they should do. इतना कैपेसिटी इन लोग का है, इतना कर सकते हैं ये लोग. हाँ? तो ये प्रिंसिपल से ही आ रहा है, यहाँ से प्रिंसिपल. अभी अभी आप बोलेंगे प्रभुपाद ने 16 माला क्यों दिया, तो यहाँ से आ रहा है. प्रिंसिपल ये है कि वन शुड according to one should not give up the all rules. Okay, I don't want to wake up, I don't want to chant also. नहीं, वो भी नहीं, वो गलत है. And then one takes up the great vow that I will go to Himalaya and do something. That is also not. Or I will follow like Haridas Thakur. That is also not possible. So therefore, it has to be adjusted. So now this thing applies in every now and then. Like Sanatan Goswami has Hari Bhakti Vilas. Very, very tough. So many rules, regulations. Now Prabhupada says we need not to follow everything because he knew that we cannot follow. And unnecessarily, if we give so many things, then we cannot follow, then it will become aparad. So he minimized the principles. Like Rupa Goswami Pad in this book only has minimized. 64 only limbs he has given. He has not given all the limbs from Hari Bhakti Vilas. And then Prabhupada also made the process very simpler for deity worship and for even other things. Even for Gayatri also, the process is simplified. And for worshipping deities, how many times bathing, this also is simplified. Prabhupada simplified it. So whatever is possible with easily performed, one should do that. But if one is not able, like even for Ekadasi Vrata, easily performed क्या हो सकता है उसको देखना चाहिए. एकदम एकदम एकादशी को फॉलो नहीं करना वो गड़बड़ है, या एकदम एकादशी निर्जला ही रखना. कोई कर सकता है, अच्छी बात है. नहीं कर सकता तो then no need not to follow. One should just follow, either takes fruits or some non-grain item and maintain your ekadasi and chant holy name. But if one is not even able to chant 16 rounds, then he must take up to the next, he must make it up the next day. Prabhupada is also giving this allowance. If one is not able to chant 16 rounds the previous day, he must be sure to keep his vow if he does not strictly follow. Now, it does not mean to say that this should become the process that every day not completing rounds, then next day, then after 1 month, one has a 1 lakh names to chant. Means Haridas Thakur 3 lakh names. तो वो बोलेगा कि प्रभु जी अब मैं हरिदास ठाकुर बनने वाला हूँ. तो ये माला छोड़ के हरिदास ठाकुर नहीं बनना है. So that is what he is saying, that one sometimes it may happen, one forgets, but it should not be rule. He must be sure to keep his vow. If he does not strictly follow this out, then he is sure to be negligent. That is offensive in the service of the Lord. ये offensive हो जाता है. If we encourage offenses, we shall not be able to make progress. तो negligent नहीं होना, नहीं तो offense हो जाता है. It is better if one fixes up the regulative principle according to one's own ability and then follows that vow without fail. इसलिए हम लोगों को बोलते हैं, हम ऐसा पुश नहीं करना चाहिए लोगों को कि 16 माला आ जा, 16 माला आ जा. अरे वो करना है, वो कर पाएंगे क्या पहले वो भी चेक करो. पुश करना है उनको, ज्यादा समय हो गया तो पुश करना ही चाहिए. लेकिन विदाउट देयर ओन इंटेंट वी शुड नॉट पुश मच. उनका खुद का इंटेंट होना चाहिए ग्रो करने का. दिस इज अ प्रिंसिपल विच वी फॉलो. ऐकातिक हरे भक्ति उत्पाद। तो दिस इज अबाउट बुद्धा है। इसमें बुद्धा का आता है भक्ति एकांतिकी वेयम अविचारात प्रतीयते वस्तुतस्तु तथा नैव यद अशास्त्रीय अशास्त्रीय इक्षते अशास्त्रीयते इक्षते unscriptural kind of bhakti. And then we say that it's a this type of bhakti appears to be pure only because misjudging the fact. तो ये कौन सी भक्ति है? जैसे बुद्ध की भक्ति है, ये जस्ट इट इज appearing to be fact, a pure devotion because it's towards the Lord, towards the Tatare, but it's not pure because it's without Shastra. It is not following the Shastra properly. Hmm? In fact, it is not. Asastriyata, unscriptural, because it has nature, unscriptural nature. इस तरह से जैसे मान लो, देखो अभी कई लोग प्रेमानंद महाराज के पास भी जाते हैं, ठीक है जाओ अच्छी बात है, आप चेक करो शास्त्रीय है क्या जो बोल रहे हैं, पहले हमको शास्त्र पता होना चाहिए। हम्म, तो शास्त्रीय है, देन वन कैन अंडरस्टैंड, एंड देन अदर थिंग्स आल्सो सीइंग द क्वालिफिकेशन ऑफ गुरु। सो इसलिए रूप गोसाई पाद बोल रहे पहले देखो चेक करो शास्त्रीय है क्या। हम्म, शास्त्रीय इन द सेंस क्या? ओके somebody saying तो that to chant Krishna's name, so that is शास्त्रीय, what is the problem? No, 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 ऐसा नहीं है। See, Krishna is the goal, correct? Krishna is the goal, but at the same time shastra means what you are reading, what is your sadhana first, which books we are reading, from where you are getting the faith. हम्म, शास्त्र का मतलब वो होता है आर्गुमेंट्स, डिस्कशन, ये शास्त्र में चलता है, deliberation, arguments, then he can realize the conclusion. It's not that simply some Baba is saying and somebody is following and he realizes the conclusion, he goes back to God. ऐसा नहीं होता है। ओके, तो सद्धर्म पृच्छा दिस also inquiring into भक्ति। हाँ, तो ये वाला हमें अभी हमने जस्ट पढ़ा ना कि those who are serious in bhakti, Prabhupada says, quickly attain the desired goals. तो Prabhupada says same thing, those are serious in bhakti, they immediately attain the goal. कृष्ण अर्थे भोगादि त्यागो हरिम उद्देश्य भोगानि काले त्यक्त्व त्यक्तवतस त्यक्तवतव त्यक्तवतस्तव विष्णु लोका स्थिता संपद आलोल सा प्रतीक्षते। Yes, one who gives up enjoyable object at the time of enjoying, aiming at pleasure of Lord Vishnu, the permanent wealth situated in Vishnu lok awaits. द्वारका का हो गया, हमने पढ़ लिया, फिर गंगा का भी पढ़ लिया, फिर ये क्या है, ये गंगा का है। हम्म, गंगा का भी हो गया। फल्गु या अत्याहार वर्जिता। हाँ, हाँ, तो ये एक इम्पॉर्टेंट है। कौन सा है? इसमें है क्या? नहीं, ये नहीं। यावद, हाँ, अर्थानुवर्तिता। यावद अर्थानुवर्तिता मीन्स लिविंग विद मिनिमल मटेरियल नीड्स फ्रॉम द नारदीय पुराण। यावत स्यात् स्वनिर्वाह स्वीकुर्यात् तावद अर्थवित् अधिक आधिक्ये न्यूनतया तायां च च्यवते परमार्थतः। Living with the minimal material needs from Naradi Puran, the person with the wisdom concerning material objects accepts as much as is necessary for maintenance of bhakti. By accepting more or less than that, the person will fail to attain the highest goal. Hmm. तो दिस वाज देयर दैट यावत स्यात् स्व निर्वाह, जितना निर्वाह के लिए चाहिए तो उतना ही स्वीकुर्यात् तावद अर्थविद। हम्म, उतना उसको कमाना चाहिए। हम्म, उतना उसको रखना चाहिए जितना उसको जरूरत है। अधिक के, या तो अधिक रखो नहीं तो न्यून रखो, अगर ऐसा किया तो परमार्थतः। तो ये बता, च्यवते, च्यवते मीन्स ही फॉल्स डाउन फ्रॉम परमार्थ। अधिक रखा या कम रखा तो परमार्थ नहीं मिलेगा, ये कहने का मतलब है जितना चाहिए उतना रखना चाहिए। हम्म, हम्म। हरिवासर सम्मानो यथा ब्रह्म वर्ते। तो हरिवासर मतलब एकादशी हो गया, जन्माष्टमी हो गया, ये सबको सेलिब्रेट करना चाहिए। सर्व पाप प्रशम प्रशमनम पुण्यम आत्यांतिकीम तथा गोविंद स्मारणम नृणाम एकदास दस्याम उपोषणम. Respecting the day of the Lord from the Brahma by Bhagavad Puran, by fasting on Ekadasi, a person destroys all sins and gains abundant pious credit and attains the remembrance of the Lord. So this is the benefit of Ekadasi. Sarva Papa Prashamam. Prashamam. तो सारे पाप, जैसे में तुलसी महारानी को बोलते हैं, यानी कानी च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादि कानी च तानी तानी प्रणश्यंति प्रणश्यंति. तो यहाँ पे बोला गया है प्रशमन, प्रशमनम, प्रशमनम. तो सर्व पाप प्रशमनम. और पुण्यम आत्यांतिकीम तथा, बहुत सारा पुण्य मिलेगा उसको, पुण्य भी मिलेगा और पाप खत्म हो जाएंगे. और फिर क्या, गोविंदम स्मारणम नृणाम, गोविंद का स्मृति भी मिलेगा एकादशी फॉलो करने से. तीन चीज हो रहा है. हम्म, क्या तीन चीज हो रहा है कि उसको सिंस जा रहे हैं, पाइटी मिल रहा है और भगवान का रिमेम्बरेंस भी मिल रहा है. ये एकादशी को पालन करने से होता है. हम्म. ओके, यहाँ से हम पढ़ेंगे, ठीक है. अमन प्रभु, यू कैन रीड, वेर देयर. अमन प्रभु नहीं. चलो, सनातन गोपाल प्रभु रीड है. सो धात्र्य अश्वस् अश्वत्थादि गौरवम यथा स्कांदे अश्वत्थ तुलसी धात्री गोभूमिशुर वैष्णवा पूजिता प्रणता ध्याता शप्यन्ति नृणामधम.
Respecting the Amalki, Aswatha, and other things from the Skand Puran, human beings destroy sin by worshipping, respecting, and contemplating the Aswatha tree, Tulsi tree, Amalki tree, the cow, the Brahmana, and the Vaishnava. Ji Goswami commentary: the Aswatha tree is worthy of worship because it is a vibhuti of the Lord, explained in Gita. Bhumi Sura, Deva on earth, means Brahman, because the Lord has descended on earth as the benefactor and friend of the cows and Brahmanas. They also should be worshipped by the devotees. All the other items are mentioned along with Tulsi and the Vaishnava to remove doubt about worshipping them. Among the other items, worship of the cow bestows the ultimate goal for the worshippers of Krishna. The Gautami Tantra says,
गावं कण्डूयनं कुर्याद् गोवृषां गोप्रदक्षिणं गोषु नित्यं प्रसन्नासु गोपालपि प्रसीदति.
one should tickle the cows, feed them, and circumambulate them. Gopal is pleased when the cows are always pleased.
So see, very very important. So these are the something which are not to we do not see much, but it is also mentioned. These are the one of the 64 lim in bhakti. What are those? So अश्वत्थ तुलसी धात्री. धात्री मतलब क्या है? आम आम आमलकी ट्री. व्हाट इज दिस आमलकी ट्री? एनीवन नोस? क्या होता
आवला
है?
आवला 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 आवला
आंवले को ही बोल रहे हैं ना? अच्छा, आंवलों का भी वर्शिप होता है.
हाँ प्रभु जी, एकादशी को होता है ना, एकादशी होता है सेपरेट आवला का.
इतना खट्टा फ्रूट, उसका भी वर्शिप होता
हाँ
है. वेरी नाइस.
आंवला नवमी आती है दिवाली के अराउंड.
अच्छा. सो वेरी 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 इंपॉर्टेंट है आमलकी ट्री. सो अश्वत्थ ट्री, तो ये बरगद का पेड़ हो गया. देन तुलसी, देन आमला, देन गाय एंड भूमि सुरा. नाउ दिस इज स्पोकन इन स्कंदे, स्कंद पुराण में बोला गया, ठीक है. तो ये रूप गोस्वामी पद प्रूफ दे रहे हैं. प्रूफ दे रहे हैं किसका? जो ऊपर बोला है उन्होंने, है? कि अश्वत्था ट्री का वर्शिप करना चाहिए, तो उसके साथ अब ये भी आ गया। पहले के प्रिंसिपल में नहीं आया था, अब इधर वो जो प्रूफ दे रहे हैं कि कैसे वर्शिप करना चाहिए, तो उसमें और आ रहा है और समझ में आ रहा है। तो थैंक्स दैट वी हैव आल्सो गॉट जीव गोस्वामी कमेंट्री। सो नाउ, सो हाँ इधर आते हैं। तो अश्वत्था तुलसी धात्री गो भूमि, गो भूमि, गो भी मतलब गाय, भूमि सुरा, भूमि सुरा मतलब दे आर कॉल्ड गॉड्स ऑन द अर्थ, इसलिए उनको क्या बोलते हैं, नरदेव एंड भूदेव। Naradev means king. King is called Naradev. And Bhudeva, so this is called Bhudeva. Bhumi Sura means Bhudeva, are called Brahmanas, are called Bhudeva. They should also be worshipped. So Bhumi Sura, then Vaishnavas, Vaishnava, devotee of the Lord. Then Pujitaha, Pujitaha. So what should be worshipped in a Gita? What we have a slok in 17.15, ना? क्या है? देव द्विज गुरु प्राज्ञ पूजनम शौचम आर्जम, उधर भी आता है देव द्विज गुरु प्राज्ञ, तो इसमें पूरा ह्यूमंस के ऊपर ही बताया गया है, देव द्विज गुरु प्राज्ञ। बट हियर इट्स मेंशन इवन ट्रीज आल्सो शुड बी वर्शिप्ड, अश्वत्थ तुलसी धात्री गो भूमि सुरा एंड वैष्णवास। हाउ मेनी? एक दो तीन चार पांच छह, छह लोगों का वर्शिप बोला है। पूजिता, पूजिता मतलब पूजा करना चाहिए। आगे offered obeisances. So how we should worship? Offering obeisances, meditating upon them. So we can see what is the way of worshipping. Pranataha, dhyataha, and then हाँ बस इतना ही, प्रणता ध्याता। और आप पूजा भी कर सकते हो, मतलब आरती भी निकाल सकते हो, इसमें कोई इशू नहीं है। पूजिता बोला है ना, पूजिता प्रणता ध्याता क्षपंती निर्णाम अधम। तो हमारे जो भी पाप हैं उसको खत्म कर देता है, ये सब बोला गया है। सो अब यहाँ पे आता जीव गोस्वामी पाद बोलते हैं कि ब्राह्मण मीन्स ब्राह्मणा भूमिसुरा, Lord descended on the earth as the benefactor and friend of cows and the brahmana. They also should be worshipped by the devotees. So go brahmana hitayecha. आगे all those other items are mentioned along with Tulsi and the Vaishnavas to remove the doubt about worshipping them. तो ये वैष्णव और तुलसी साथ क्यों मेंशन किया गया है? हाँ बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट, जीव गोस्वामी पाद बोलते हैं। कोई बोल सकता है कि यार अश्वत्थ को करना चाहिए कि नहीं, तो इसलिए सबको साथ में मेंशन कर दिया कि वैष्णव को वर्शिप कर रहे हो, ब्राह्मण को, तो गो को भी करना ही चाहिए। Among the other items, the worship of cow bestows the ultimate goal for the worshipper of Krishna. So even this is also mentioned, worship of the cow. One should tickle the cow. How we should worship? One should tickle the cow. आप जैसे गौशाला जाते वेला गए या इधर भी गए, कोई टिकलिंग ये गले में किया, हाँ, तो वो भी एक वर्शिप है। Because cow is getting happy ना, you cannot do for Vaishnava, Vaishnava if you do tickling much slap मिल जाएगा आपको, टिकलिंग नहीं कर सकते। लेकिन गाय को कर सकते, टिकलिंग टिकलिंग कर सकते हैं, उनको खिला सकते हैं, है ना। गाय क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछेगी क्या प्रसाद खिला रहे हो क्या मुझे, वैष्णव तो क्वेश्चन पूछेंगे, प्रसाद खिलाए प्रभु क्या। और सर्कम्बुलेटिंग आल्सो, यू कैन सर्कम्बुलेट, वेरी इजी वर्शिप। वैष्णव वेरी डिफिकल्ट, वैष्णव का सर्कम्बुलेशन करोगे तो मना करेंगे वो, लेकिन उनको खिला भी सकते हो, टिकलिंग भी कर सकते हो गाय का। गोपाला इज प्लीज्ड व्हेन द काउज आर ऑलवेज प्लीज्ड। Actually, so but I don't want to name a preacher, but one time that preacher he gave a class that in 64 limbs of bhakti there is no worship of cow. Hmm. So why we are too much opening gosalas or focusing on cow? But actually he did not read this part. ये यहाँ से पढ़ा नहीं उन्होंने। इसमें दिया है ऑलरेडी कि गाय का वर्शिप करना चाहिए। गाय का वर्शिप वैष्णव के वर्शिप और ब्राह्मण के वर्शिप के बराबर है, एक तरीके से बताया गया यहाँ पे, है ना। इसलिए जीव गोस्वामी पाद बोलते हैं कि साथ में इन सबको बोला गया है। ऑल दोज अदर आइटम्स आर मेंशन्ड along with the तुलसी एंड द वैष्णवस टू रिमूव द डाउट अबाउट वर्शिपिंग देम। डाउट नहीं होना चाहिए उसमें। And also mentioned among the other items the worship of the cow bestows the ultimate goal। मतलब अश्वत्था तुलसी तो छोड़ो, तुलसी और वैष्णव एक साथ ले लेना है, ठीक है। नाउ ब्राह्मण, अश्वत्था, आमलका और काऊ, ये जो चार चीज हैं, इसमें दो चीज तो पूरा वैष्णव से डायरेक्टली कनेक्टेड है। क्या है? वैष्णव और तुलसी, ये तो हमें पता है कि भगवान के तदीय हैं। लेकिन बाकी चीज में भूमि सुरा, गो, धात्री और अश्वत्थ में सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट कौन है? गाय बोला गया है, गाय को बोला गया है। ऐसा बाकी चीजों में, या इसमें भूमि सुरा भी मिला सकते हो वैष्णव के साथ। तो फिर ये तीन चीजों में इंपॉर्टेंट है, अश्वत्थ, धात्री और गो में गो इंपॉर्टेंट है, ये कहा गया है। ओके ना। अथ श्रीकृष्ण विमुख जन संत्यागो यथा कात्यायन संहितायां वरम हुत वह ज्वाला पंजरांतर व्यवस्थिति न सौरी चिंता विमुख जन स्वाम स्वाम स वैषमम वैससम। पढ़िए।
Giving up the association of those opposed to Krishna from the Katyayana Samhita, it is preferable to remain within a cage of blazing fire than to have the misfortune of living in association with persons who are opposed to thinking of the Lord.
दिस इज फॉर विच प्रिंसिपल? भक्तों का एसोसिएशन लेना और बाहर वालों का नहीं लेना, उसके ऊपर बोला गया ना। हाँ, तो इसको मिनट,
अनुकूल्य से संकल्पन।
नहीं नहीं, ये ऊपर के इंस्ट्रक्शन से बता रहा हूं मैं। संग त्यागो, संग त्यागो विदुरेणा भगवद विमुख विमुखैर जनये। 78 श्लोका, 78 श्लोका में ये बोला गया है, संग त्यागो विदुरेणा भगवद विमुखैर जनये। सो बिफोर दिस श्लोका, इसके पहले वाले देखो, 11वां नंबर श्लोक है, मतलब 10 हो चुके हैं कंप्लीट। 10 लिम्स ऑफ भक्ति हो गया कंप्लीट, अभी 11वां चल रहा है। तो 11वां कौन सा है, यहाँ पर बताया गया है कि संग त्यागो विदुरेना। तो संग त्यागो के ऊपर ये प्रूफ दिया जा रहा है यहाँ पे 11वें प्रिंसिपल के लिए। ये प्रूफ है कि वन शुड रिमेन अ केज ऑफ ब्लेजिंग फायर देन टू हैव अ मिसफॉर्च्यून ऑफ लिविंग इन एसोसिएशन विद द पर्सन्स हु आर अपोज टू थिंकिंग ऑफ द लॉर्ड। मतलब कभी कभी नॉन डिवोटी के साथ रहना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है। इट्स लाइक अ मोर, somebody cannot tolerate, somebody can tolerate heat inside a cage, blazing fire, but living with non devotees is too difficult, ऐसा बोला गया है। इट इज प्रेफरेबल टू रिमेन विद इन अ केज ऑफ ब्लेजिंग फायर देन टू हैव एसोसिएशन ऑफ नॉन डिवोटीज हु आर अपोज टू द थिंकिंग ऑफ द लॉर्ड। वाई शसम मीन्स मिस फॉर्च्यून, वाई शसम, वरम हुता वह ज्वाला, पंज हाँ? पंजरांतर व्यवस्थिति ही, ये पंजरांतर ये है पिंजरा है? पिंजरा, हाँ केज, हुत हुता वह। सो पिंजरा में कोई ज्वाला में मरेगा, ठीक है। नॉट सौरी मीन्स कृष्णा द डिसेंडेंट ऑफ सुरा। सो न सौरी चिंता विमुखा, सो ही द विमुखा ऑफ व्हाट, सौरी चिंता, भगवान की चिंता से विमुख है। जन संवास वयसम, ऐसे पर्सन के साथ रहना तो कैलेमिटी है, मिसफॉर्चून है एक्चुअली। वयसम, वयसम, जन संवास, उसका संग लेना मतलब क्या है, मिसफॉर्चून है व्यक्ति का जो न सौरी चिंता विमुखा, सौरी के चिंता से विमुख है जो, उसका संग नहीं लेना चाहिए। विष्णु रहस्य च आलिंगनम वरम मन्ये व्याल व्याघ्र जल जलौकसाम न संग शल्य युक्तानाम नाना देवैक सेविनाम। यस।
Also, from the Vishnu Rahasya, I consider it preferable to embrace a snake, tiger, or crocodile than to associate with those who worship devatas. They are bearers of spears, piercing me with the deviant desires. Jigo Swami commentary. The word salya means spear, refers to the desires they have for worshipping the devatas.
My Lord, Devta, Devta worshipper is also so dangerous. You can understand. Previous shloka says, one who's averse to thinking of Vishnu, sorry chinta vimukha. Now here बोला गया है कि I will consider to embrace a snake, tiger or crocodile, then to associate who worship देवता। मतलब कर्मकांडी से भी एसोसिएशन बहुत डिफिकल्ट है। They are bearer of spears, piercing me with their deviant desires. So amazing. It's such a strong thing. ऊपर बोला है तुलसी का वर्शिप कर लो, अश्वत्था का कर लो, आमलकी का कर लो, गाय का कर लो, लेकिन देवता का वर्शिपर यानी काफी सीरियस है. Like somebody was telling that I have a small sibling I am worshipping in my altar because from so many long years we are worshipping. So can it be possible to worship? Is it okay? Uh, so these are for those people whose श्रद्धा have not come in Krishna actually. ये प्रिंसिपल किसके लिए है? ये साधना भक्ति के प्रिंसिपल है. अब जो साधना नहीं करना चाहता है, शुद्ध साधना, वो चलेगा, करेगा, जो करना है करो. हम्म. लेकिन जो शुद्ध भक्ति को फॉलो करना चाहते हैं, एटलीस्ट साधना चालू करना चाहते हैं, तो उनको जरूरी है ये सब फॉलो करना, कि देवताओं के वर्शिप में कि वर्शिपर से दूर रहना. ये बोला गया है. वरम मन्ने व्याल व्याघ्र जलोकशाम. लीचेस, इवन लीचेज आल्सो मेंशन. लीच का भी संग ले लेगा. लीच भी शरीर पे आए कोई दिक्कत नहीं. serpents, tigers. Like therefore, sometimes Haridas Thakur, like when they used to get some blasphemy from others, so they used to think that I have associated with some blasphemous. That's why this I have blasphemed. I have associated with some blasphemer of holy name. That's why these miseries are coming. So in this way, they used to interpret. So this similar this here also. This interpretation. Yes. What is the question?
So Prabhuji, here as like you gave an example about deity worship, like if something has been practicing since many years, long time. So Prabhuji, if we don't ask anything material from demigod worshipping, just to maintain our culture, so that you know, maybe our children might not take Krishna consciousness. At least they should know. Like I have seen some people are doing this, but without any materialistic desire. So is it all right, or no, we should completely...
Okay, good question. So there are two things. I explained the same thing in that class. Respect and worship. ठीक है? क्या है? Demigods का respect है and worship. These two things are there. ठीक है? This we should not give up for anyone. Respect. ठीक है? Respect हमें कभी नहीं छोड़ना चाहिए. Even demigods का भी नहीं छोड़ना चाहिए. Respecting. Because, and we should understand Deva, Narayana, Angaja. They are the part and parcel of Narayana's body. ठीक है? So they should be respected. But when it comes to worship it is strictly told not to do, because one will start gaining faith in that demigod. That demigod is going to help me for certain things. And that becomes regular after some times. Because when gopis, they are worshipping Katyayani, they are worshipping actually. But their worship is simply farce actually. They are not having faith that, or they are not asking anything other than Krishna Bhakti, anything other than, and they have no desire only in this world. They have given up everything, their homes, their family. They're simply telling Kaitayani, please, you have got, you are a deity for giving a good husband. Please give us a husband, Krishna. Please give. So their whole desire is like that. They're totally inclined in that direction. So for them, such worship is not going to affect at all, because they are always seeing Krishna only. Even if somebody will give them anything other than Krishna, even Narayana comes in front, they say that, can you tell where is Krishna? Their bhakti so high. Okay. So that is why, so their worship should not be condemned, because they are worshipping, and one cannot bring that kind of worshipping of ब्रज भूमि to हमारे सोसाइटी में, कि भाई उधर गणेश का वर्शिप तुम भी चालू कर दो, उधर ये करते तुम भी चालू कर दो. ये अच्छा नहीं है, क्योंकि यहाँ पे मेंशन नहीं है वो चीजें. द रीजन इज और ब्रजास दे आर स्पॉन्टेनियस भक्तास। स्पॉन्टेनियस भक्ता, उनके अंदर तो उनके हार्ट में रागानुगा भक्ति रहती है, या उनको रागात्मिका भक्ति बोलते हैं, वो तो रागानुगा भक्त हैं, वो तो स्पिरिचुअल वर्ल्ड से हैं, लेकिन जो भी है, तो दीज पीपल they don't get diverted in their path, even if they worship some god also, to just gain Krishna, to just gain Krishna। कृष्ण को पाना है उनको, और कुछ नहीं चाहिए उनके हृदय में। तो वो केवल नाटक करते दूसरों को दिखाने के लिए ना हो। अभी बच्चों के इसमें क्या होता है, बच्चे का ज्यादातर दिमाग कैसा रहता है, दे आर मोर लाइक सेंस, उनका इंजॉयमेंट का रहता है एज उनका, वो वैसे ही है सभी का सेंस इंजॉयमेंट, अनलेस दे आर हाईली एलिवेटेड सोल्स। But most of the children are they look for enjoyment all. So when we give them this process of going to demigods, then they will surely develop faith in demigods, surely वो होगा ही होगा। तो उनको हमें रेस्पेक्ट करना सिखाना है, उनको रेस्पेक्ट करना सिखाना है, और बोलना है कि आपको वर्शिप भगवान का करना है। ये जितने भी डेमिगॉड का वर्शिप कर रहे हो, इस सबको देने वाले भगवान ही है। तो आपको जो भी चीज मांगना है भगवान से मांगो। तो दिस इज द होल अंडरस्टैंडिंग। Let children ask from Krishna, not a problem. Why demigod? Why we are telling that this is not Shuddha Bhakti, or you don't ask anything from Krishna? No, you chant holy name, you have some desire, you ask from Krishna. And you ask in this way, Krishna, if you feel this is very nice desire, please fulfill. You are my beloved Lord. So teach them in this way, guide them in this way. Not, they may not be able to do fully pure bhakti, चलेगा, लेकिन भगवान से ही मांगो, डेमीगॉड से क्यों मांगना है? डेमीगॉड को रेस्पेक्ट करना है, उनके मंदिर में जाके कुछ हमें दंडवत भी कर लिया, मान लो कभी कभी जाके वर्शिप भी कर लिया, कोई इशू नहीं है। जैसे वृंदावन में गए, आपने कुछ बेल के पत्र डाल दिए, कुछ पानी डाल दिया, लेकिन हमारा डिजायर क्या है उस समय, केवल कृष्ण की भक्ति में एडवांस करने का, बस वो एक मोमेंट्री हमने काम कर दिया, फिर निकल के आगे मंदिर से। ये नहीं कि रेगुलर जाके फिर पानी डालना चालू कर दिया, वो गड़बड़, वो नहीं करना है। रेगुलर जाके पानी डालना चालू कर दिया, हम भी बन गए ब्रज भक्त, तो वो उसका प्रूफ नहीं है। इज मेंशन्ड हियर, डेमीगॉड वर्शिप इज ओनली अलाउड फॉर दोज हु आर कर्मी, who have no knowledge of Krishna as a supreme personality of Godhead. For others, it's better that they should take to directly Krishna Bhakti, ऐसा। तो कृष्ण के पास ही जा, डेमीगॉड के पास। ओके ना, आई थिंक आई कुड मेक सम सेंस, some answer.
Yes, but that's why I asked that without any materialistic desire, just to
लेकिन वो होगा नहीं, वो होगा
whatever.
नहीं,
Okay.
एक्चुअली वो आ जाएगा धीरे धीरे डिजायर्स। See, we should be intelligent. If we are able to do that, pollution may not happen, and one can again advance and come to Krishna ultimately. Then if you are able to do that, okay, go ahead. Like many people were bhakta of Lord Shiva earlier, they were bhakta of Shani Dev भी कई लोग के, कई लोग हनुमान जी के, बाद में भक्ति में आए, भक्ति में आए वो, जब उनको कुछ पता लगे। ठीक है, अगर एटलीस्ट कहीं नहीं वर्शिप कर रहा है, कहीं तो जाए बाबा, कहीं तो वर्शिप, वो तो अच्छा है। नास्तिक होने से बेहतर तो आस्तिक होना बेहतर है। गणेश का वर्शिप करना है करो, भगवान शिव का करना है करो, हाँ, ओके, नो प्रॉब्लम, टेल देम, एंड टेल देम अबाउट विष्णु ऑल्सो। देन ग्रेजुअली टेक देम टू कृष्णा, दैट इज ऑल्सो गुड, नो इशू। क्योंकि बच्चों के लिए ज्यादा कुछ वो सीरियसनेस नहीं लेना चाहिए हमें। प्रभुपाद जी बोलते हैं जिनका प्रॉपर ट्रेनिंग होता है गुरुकुलाज में, उनको तो डायरेक्टली कृष्ण से ही जोड़ना चाहिए। तो विद इन सम 11-12 years they will become good devotees. Like I went to Chate school, the Chate in Kharadi, so they called for Guru Purnima, and so I gave a lecture there in school. So then I met Somnath sir, he was a director. So then he told me, so what I observed on that day, so they garlanded Mother Saraswati and then Ved Vyas ji, and then all the teacher were made, they were made sit on the chair, and the boys and girls, they were coming and they were worshipping their teachers. In the थाली कुछ कुछ लगा के, कुमकुम रहता है, थोड़ा ये रहता है, वो फिर फूल रहता है, फिर दिया रहता है, so they were doing like that, and they were putting some flower on the teacher, then bowing down and touching their feet. So I said it's very good culture. And he said that on Valentine's Day, he celebrates worship of the parents. He calls the parents on Valentine's Day, and he made them sit and their children worship the parents. मैंने बोला ये तो और अच्छा है। Very nice culture. Actually, it should be there. So just because we are devotees and nobody is following the highest rule, so it does not mean we cannot follow the smallest rule even in such stages like children. चिल्ड्रन दे डू नॉट हैव, उनका ज़्यादा बुद्धि नहीं रहता है, तो उनको ये सब सिखाना बहुत जरूरी है, स्पेशली कल्चर बहुत जरूरी है। ना कोई बोलेगा प्रभु जी टीचर आजकल के कर्मी लोग हैं उनका वर्शिप नहीं, जरूरी है कल्चर, टीचर का वर्शिप जरूरी है? At least as a culture point of view. From knowledge point of view, like Sukracharya was a guru for Bali Maharaj, but he rejected on the basis of philosophy. He did not reject it for altogether. Later, Bali Maharaj must have respected Sukracharya because Sukracharya also said, yes, whatever Vishnu is saying, correct. So he was knowledgeable. He rejected in the sense, for that time he rejected. Aisa. So we should understand very clearly. Like the Brahman Patni, they came to Krishna. Krishna told, go and stay with your husband. Don't come with me now. And practice bhakti internally. So rejection means they rejected their, did not want their wives to go. So they rejected that time, but later again they accepted. So the whole principle is here that we can teach children this culture of obeying parents, obeying teachers, obeying gods. It is important. At the same time, when we are devotees, so we should give them also some attachment towards Krishna by telling the glories of Krishna. Then children should ask from their own side, ki Mama, Papa, what is this Krishna? Why you are talking too much about Krishna? What is special about Krishna? So then you speak about Krishna more. एंड देन वी शुड टेक देम टू डेमिगॉड टू। तो उसमें कोई खराब बात नहीं है, ये चीज है। लेकिन बड़ों के लिए ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए। बड़ों के लिए बेसिकली वी शुड बी केयरफुल, बिकॉज बड़ों का ज्यादा चेंज होता नहीं है। एक जो फेथ बैठ गया मतलब बैठ जाता है, बच्चों का हो सकता है।
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you.
शिष्यान् अनुबन्धित्वादि त्रयम् यथा सप्तमे 7:13-8 न शिष्यान् अनुबध्नीत ग्रन्थान्नैवाभ्यसेद् बहुन् न व्याख्याम् उपयुञ्जीत नारम्भान् आरभेत क्वचित्। यस पढ़िए।
Attachment to disciples of the following two items are illustrated in the seventh canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 7:13-8. A sannyasi must not present allurement of material benefits to gather many disciples, nor should he unnecessarily read books that disrespect the Lord or give discourses as a means of livelihood. He must never engage in big projects that distract him from the spiritual goals.
These are very, very important things. Now, this is from 7.13. Then Narad Muni telling to Yudhishthira Maharaj what? Na sisyan anubadnita. Anubadnita means one should enroll or get bound by sisyan. One get bound by sisya too much. To gather. So, must not present allurement of material benefits to gather many disciples. Okay. So, telling that, like we see that people say that, जैसे अभी बागेश्वर धाम के बाबा जी हैं जो भी है, तो वो तो अपना काम कर रहे हैं, उनको बहुत सारे लोग मिल रहे हैं डिसाइपल के रूप में, एक तरीके से उनके फॉलोअर्स बहुत हो गए, बट वो क्या सब मटेरियल बेनिफिट्स ही दिखा रहे हैं। भले जो भी है, बोलेंगे कि राम का नाम लो, हनुमान का, लेकिन किस लिए लेना है? दुख को दूर करने के लिए लेना है, भक्ति के लिए तो बहुत ऊपर की चीज है। सो दैट काइंड ऑफ थिंग इज वन। सेकेंडली, दोज आर प्रैक्टिसिंग डिवोटीज और इवन दोज आर ग्रेट पोजिशन ऑफ संन्यास, they should not show other things, that if you become devotees you will get this benefit, you will get this, like you find Christians, they provide money. Christians, if you become Christian, they will give you salary every month. So such kind of increasing followers, this is mentioned in Bhakti not to do, and they are doing it. It means they are simply making business out of religion. Religion को business बना के रखा है। तो भक्ति एक बिजनेस नहीं है कि मैं ज्यादा फॉलोअर होंगे तो ज्यादा पैसा मिलेगा, और फिर हर जगह घूमेंगे हम फ्लाइट में, या बड़ा बड़ा कार में, जरूरी ऐसा नहीं करना है, क्योंकि ये मटेरियल हो गया। नाउ ग्रंथा नैवा अव्यसेद बहुन। तो जिसमें अव्यसेद मीन्स वन शुड स्टडी न ग्रंथा ग्रंथा एंड स्क्रिप्चर्स न नॉट एव सर्टेनली वन शुड स्टडी बहुन। बहुत ज्यादा ग्रंथ नहीं पढ़ना चाहिए। कौन कौन से ग्रंथ नहीं पढ़ने चाहिए, इंपॉर्टेंट है, जिसमें डिसरेस्पेक्ट हो भगवान का। हम्म? भक्ति ग्रंथों को तो पढ़ना ही चाहिए। Unnecessarily read the books that disrespect the Lord. It means that creates some other things higher than the Lord. Like disrespect मतलब क्या है, कि अभी कोई बोलेगा मैं भक्त हूँ, चलो मैं सारे पुराण पढ़ना चालू करता हूँ। सारे पुराण नहीं पढ़ सकते आप। सारे पुराण पढ़ेंगे तो आपके अंदर थोड़ा डिसरिस्पेक्ट हो जाएगा, क्योंकि वहां पे काफी सारे डेमिगॉड्स का भी वर्षिप बहुत बोला है, ये बड़ा है वो बड़ा है। सो उसमें डिसरिस्पेक्ट हो जाएगा भगवान का। आप समझ नहीं पाएंगे, बोलेंगे अरे उधर भी बोला है ना, जैसे तुम्हारे स्क्रिप्चर में बोला है उधर भी बहुत बोला है। तुम वैष्णव वाले मानते हो अपना, और हम अपना मानेंगे, पुराण तो वेद व्यास ने लिखा है। सो लाइक दैट सम डिसरिस्पेक्ट में अवेकन इन आवर हार्ट। तो ग्रंथान, इसलिए वो डिसरिस्पेक्ट नहीं होना चाहिए, ऐसे ग्रंथ को नहीं पढ़ना चाहिए जिसमें भगवान को नीचा दिखाया है, किसी और को ऊंचा दिखाया है। इट्स नॉट गुड। ना व्याख्याम उपयुंजित। आगे, और गिव डिस्कोर्सेस। उपयुंजित मतलब वन शुड यूटिलाइज फॉर लाइवलीहुड। अब भागवत कथा कर रहे हैं, किस लिए कर रहे हैं? तो व्याख्या कर रहे हैं तो पैसा के लिए। तो ये भी इम्पोर्टेंट। हाँ, पैसा अगर आता है, वो डोनेशन में कुछ दे रहे हैं, ठीक है, कोई इशू नहीं है, बट वन शुड नॉट मेक बेटिंग बेटिंग और सेंस कि चलो मैं अभी इतना कथा देता हूँ तो इतना मेरे को पैसा मिलना चाहिए, ऐसा अच्छा नहीं है। दिस इज नॉट गुड। नारंभान आरभेत क्वचित। तो फिर क्या बोला है? आरंभा, ग्रेट एंटरप्राइजेस, ग्रांड प्रोजेक्ट्स वन शुड नॉट अंडरटेक। आरभेत नहीं लेना चाहिए। तो ये सब बताया गया है। तो बेसिकली मटेरियल वर्क में नहीं ज्यादा घुसना चाहिए, ये कहा। दो द टॉपिक अंडर डिस्कशन इन द भागवतम इज अ संन्यास धर्मा, एंड देयरफॉर द थ्री रूल्स apply to the renounced person. The rule are also applicable to other devotees. Sanjeev Goswami is saying it is also applicable to other devotees, not only to sannyasis. In any case, this rule means that one should not accept unqualified disciples. This is because we see the example of Narada and others taking disciples, though they are renounced. If the rule was literally followed and no disciples were made, then the sampradaya would be destroyed because there would be no lineage. Consequently, there would be an appearance of false knowledge. Thus, the rule that the devotee should not be attached to making disciple actually means that the devotee should not accept unqualified disciples in order to increase the number of. So, means one can take many disciples, not a problem. Question is not that we should not take many. Question is because if he does not take, then many will follow the wrong path. Question is one should not take unqualified. It means one should make them first qualified to get initiated and then initiate them. Not that in hurry, फटाफट सबको कर दो, नहीं. The injunction is that one should not study many scripture, means that one should not study scripture other than Vaishnava scriptures opposed to the Bhagavatam. The injunction about big projects should be similarly interpreted. तो ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। बिग प्रोजेक्ट मतलब जो भगवान से अलग है प्रोजेक्ट, उसका कहने का मतलब है भगवान के लिए कर सकते हैं, बड़ा बड़ा कार्य भी कर रहे हैं लोग, आजकल भी कर रहे हैं भगवान के लिए, बट अपना साधना को नहीं छोड़ना है, ये कहने का मतलब है। प्रभुपाद जी ने बड़े बड़े कार्य करवाए अपने डिसाइपल्स से, है कि नहीं? सो वन शुड नॉट स्टडी स्क्रिप्चर अदर देन वैष्णव स्क्रिप्चर्स विच आर अपोज टू श्रीमद भागवतम, विच में से समथिंग एल्स, कर्मकांड स्क्रिप्चर, देन अपोजिशन नहीं होना चाहिए भागवत का अगेंस्ट। जैसे महाभारत भी है तो उसको सही कॉन्टेक्स्ट में समझना है, नहीं तो महाभारत में धर्म अर्थ काम मोक्ष को ऊपर बताया है और भागवत में धर्म अर्थ काम मोक्ष को निकाल ही दिया है। धर्म प्रोजित कही तो अत्र, उसको किक आउट। महाभारत के जो चीजें हैं वो भागवत में उड़ा दिया है, साइड कर दिया है। इसलिए बोला गया ना कि धर्म से ही अपवर्गस्य, धर्म को अपवर्ग के लिए करना चाहिए, और महाभारत क्या बोल रहे हैं कि धर्म होना चाहिए अर्थ के लिए, काम के लिए, ऐसा होना चाहिए। तो एकदम उल्टा कंसेप्ट है। सो देन महाभारत को पढ़ के हम कोई चीज निकाल सकते हैं कुछ बेनिफिशियल, लेकिन हम भागवत प्रिंसिपल को अपोज नहीं कर सकते। वो इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है। इट्स नॉट दैट वी स्टार्ट प्रीचिंग महाभारत ओनली। द डिवोटी शुड नॉट डू दैट। हाँ, 15th, व्यवहारे अप्य अका अकापर्ण्य अकारपण्य यथा पद में। अलब्धे वा विनिष्टे वा भक्ष्यात् साधन साधने अविक्लव मतिर्भूत्वा हरिम एव धिया स्मरेत्.
Not feeling miserable and not performing degrading acts in distressing circumstances. Illustrated in the Padma Puran, being undisturbed when one does not obtain food or clothing, or when these things are lost, one should remember the Lord with one's intelligence. Ji Goswami commentary. The injunction applies to the devotees participating, smarnam, etc. The devotees the devotees absorbed in service, however, will perform service corresponding to the materials he obtains, and thus will make efforts to obtain those items. If these items are not present, instead of simply remaining indifferent to loss or lack of those items, it should be understood that the injunction also means that he should not perform low actions with prominence of begging and such.
हाँ, तो ये थोड़ा एक इम्पोर्टेंट चीज है. जैसे ये कौन सा इंस्ट्रक्शन है? तो पिछला वाला क्या था? शिष्यादि अनुबंधित्वम, पहले वाला महाआरंभ महाआरंभ आदि अनुद्यमा, महाआरंभ आदि अनुद्यमा, ज्यादा मेहनत नहीं, शिष्य ज्यादा लेना नहीं है, बंधन नहीं करना शिष्यों से ज्यादा. ये बहुग्रंथ काला काल बहुग्रंथ कलाभ्यास व्याख्या वाद विवर्जनम. तो व्याख्या पैसा के लिए नहीं करना है, वाद के लिए नहीं, मतलब लड़ाई झगड़ा के लिए नहीं व्याख्या, या बहुत ग्रंथ पढ़ना नहीं है. तो उसके बारे में हो गया. अभी क्या है? व्यवहारे अपि अकारपण्यम शोकादि अवशः वर्जिता. सो व्यवहारे कार्पण्यम. So not feeling miserable in any material circumstances, not being subject to lamentation or other extreme emotions. तो इसमें क्या बोला गया है? हाँ, यहाँ पे आता है. तो बोला गया है कि miserable or not performing and not performing degrading acts in distressing circumstances. मतलब कोई sinful act one should not do because one needs something. Prabhupada mentions that one time Vishwamitra Muni ate dog. He ate dog because there was a famine. अकाल पड़ गया था वहां पे. तो he ate dog. So then Prabhupada writes a purport. For devotees, this is not. One should not. So Prabhupada says two things. He says, when in emergency, when one has nothing to eat, then he can eat animals. Prabhupada says. Then Prabhupada mentions, but for devotees, this situation will not arise. Don't worry. Devotees will be taken care by the Lord. So for Vishwamitra Muni, he had to eat dog once. Okay. Next, यहाँ पे बोला है, being undisturbed when one does not obtain food or clothing, or when these things are lost, one should remember the Lord with one's intelligence. ये बोला है. तो क्या उसे खाना नहीं चाहिए? उसको क्या करना चाहिए? तो जीव गोस्वामी पाद बोलते हैं, दिस इंजंक्शन अप्लाई टू डिवोटी प्रैक्टिसिंग स्मरणम. ये थोड़ा हाई स्टेज वाला भक्त है. दिस इंजंक्शन अप्लाइज टू हुम? जो स्मरणम एक्सेट्रा प्रैक्टिस कर रहा है, मतलब एडवांस है. श्रवणम कीर्तनम के ऊपर आता है स्मरणम. The devotee absorbed in service, however, will perform service corresponding to the materials he obtained, and thus he will make effort to obtain those items if these items are not present, instead of simply remaining indifferent to loss or lack of those items. It should be understood that this injunction also means that. So इसका मतलब ये है, he will make effort to gain those items because he need for his seva. ऐसा नहीं कि नहीं करेगा, instead of simply remaining indifferent. तो ये भी इंपॉर्टेंट है. उसको सर्विस के लिए कोई चीज चाहिए तो ही विल मेक सम एफर्ट टू गेट दोज थिंग्स, बट ही विल नॉट मेक एफर्ट ऑफ डूइंग सम बेगिंग और काइंड ऑफ डूइंग सम सिंफुल एक्टिविटी. नो, बट ही विल मेक सम सिंपल एफर्ट. ऐसा बोला गया. इसका कहने का ये मतलब है. ऐसा नहीं कि बिल्कुल एफर्ट ही नहीं करना है. नहीं, ये मतलब नहीं है इसका कि जस्ट आया तो आया, नहीं आया तो नहीं आया, छोड़ दो. ऐसा जीव गोस्वामी बोलते हैं, ऐसा नहीं करना है. नाउ शोकादि अवसः वर्तिता. शोकादि अवसः वर्तिता यथा तत्रैव शोकामर्षादिभिर्भावैर् आक्रान्तं यस्य मानसम्. कथं तत्र मुकुन्दस्य स्फूर्ति संभावना भवेत्. Yes.
Not being controlled by lamentation or other emotions, also illustrated in Padma Puran, how is it possible for the Mukund to appear in the mind of a person whose mind is afflicted with lamentation, anger, or other emotions?
हाँ. So पिछले श्लोक में बोला गया है कि don't become miserable, don't do some sinful activities like that, and then here don't again become controlled by lamentation or other emotions. Same thing, दोनों को सेम ही चीज बोला गया है. तो जब कोई चीज नहीं है तो ज्यादा दुखी मत हो जाओ, थोड़ा प्रयास करके चीज को प्राप्त कर लो, ऐसा कहने का मतलब पिछले में है. यहाँ पे मतलब है कि लैमेंटेशन नहीं, कोई चीज लॉस हो गया है आपका, कोई चीज खत्म हो गया है, हाँ, या कुछ चीज होने वाला है, तो उसमें ज्यादा डोंट गेट कंट्रोल्ड बाय दैट. Otherwise, Mukunda will not appear in your mind. So mind has to be steady. Then only Lord will appear. That is what mentioned here. See, for devotees, this is very, very important. These are also the principles of bhakti. One should not become overly affected by situations. 17th. Anya devan agya. Dev anagya. Yes, Dev anagya. Anna deva अनज्ञ देवानज्ञा यथा तत्रैव हरिरेव सदा आराध्यः देवेश्वरेश्वरः इतरे ब्रह्मरुद्राद्या नावज्ञाः कदाचन. यस, पढ़िए.
Not disrespecting the Devatas, illustrated in Padma Puran, one should always worship Hari, the Lord of the Masters of all the Devatas. On the other hand, one should not disrespect Brahma, Shiva, or others.
हाँ, देखो दोनों चीज मेंशन किया. क्या बोला है? वन शुड ऑलवेज वर्शिप हरि, हरि का वर्शिप करो, और दूसरा वन शुड नॉट डिसरेस्पेक्ट देवतास. वर्शिप के लिए नहीं बोला है उनका, वर्शिप हरि के लिए बोला गया है. ठीक है, पद्म पुराण में. हरिर एव सदा आराध्य, हमेशा उनका ही आराधना करना चाहिए. सर्व देवेश्वरेश्वर, वो सभी देव के ईश्वर है भगवान. इतरे ब्रह्म रुद्रादि न अवज्ञाय, उनका अवज्ञा नहीं करना है. कदाचन, अवज्ञा मत करना कभी, कभी डिसरेस्पेक्ट नहीं करना. लेकिन वर्शिप किसका करना है? आराध्य कौन है? हरि ही आराध्य है सबके द्वारा. Even Prabhupada mentions the purport, somebody doing Shiva Kirtan or Kali Kirtan, ये allowed नहीं है actually. ओम नमः शिवाय, ओम नमः शिवाय, हाँ, ये allowed नहीं है actually, because then you started worshipping only. कीर्तन केवल प्रपद बोलते हैं, कार्ली कीर्तन, शिवा कीर्तन इज नॉट अलाउड. ओनली हरि कीर्तन, बिकॉज ही इज सर्वदेवे सर्व स्वरेश्वरा, सभी देव. इसलिए भगवान शिव भी हरि का नाम याद करते हैं, राम राम रामेति. ओके, देन 18th. भूतानुद्वेगदायिता यथा महाभारते पितेव पुत्रं करुणो नो द्विजेय जयति योजनम विशुद्धस्य ऋषिकेशं तूर्णं तस्य प्रसीदति.
Not inflicting pain on other living entities from the Mahabharata. The pure person who does not inflict pain on others, being merciful like a father to his son, quickly pleases the master of the senses. जी
हाँ,
गोस्वामी
तो ये कौन सा है? अन्न देवान अवज्ञा पिछला वाला हो गया. अभी ये आ रहा है भूता भूतानु अनुद्वेग दायिता, दूसरों भूतों को, दूसरे जीवों को उत्तेजित करना. नॉट इन्फ्लिक्टिंग पेन ऑन अदर लिविंग एंटिटीज, ये भी महाभारत से आया है कि हमें भक्तों को ऐसा नहीं करना, दूसरों को दुख नहीं देना है. जैसे अभी भक्त है, भक्तों में भी सास और बहू की झगड़े नहीं होने चाहिए. क्यों नहीं होने चाहिए? क्योंकि ये भक्तों को नहीं करना चाहिए. हम्म, नहीं तो फिर तो कर्मी कर्मी की तरह हो गया. यस, देयर इज सम प्रॉब्लम, दे आर नॉन डिवोटीज and they are not favorable for our devotional service. Many times it may happen, and we are not able to gel properly, then we can live separate. ठीक है, बट झगड़े वगड़े नहीं, झगड़े गाली गलौज नहीं, ये सब अच्छा नहीं है. नॉट गुड. giving pain to other, even though they are non-devotees. Even one should not try to do that. Hmm. Hmm. That pure person who does not inflict pain on other, being merciful like a father to his son, quickly pleases the master of the senses, Lord Krishna. ओके, ये सब तो नहीं, ये सब तो डीटीज के हैं, ये आगे आएंगे, अभी नहीं आएंगे, ये यहाँ से आगे कहाँ से? सेवा अपराध, एक मिनट, इधर कैसे आएंगे? 1 2 117। हाँ, ये आगे के श्लोक में अभी नहीं है, ठीक है, तो उसको हम आगे पढ़ेंगे। ओके, सो टुडे विल एंड हियर ओनली, टुमारो विल डिस्कस अहेड। एनी क्वेश्चन, कमेंट, कुछ भी है, किसी को प्रश्न है?
Prabhuji, like one, it was mentioned, Prabhuji, that injunction that about big projects should be interpreted similarly to reading Bhagavatam only.
हाँ,
Prabhuji, how to interpret this as reading Bhagavatam? Like I did not understand properly.
रीडिंग भागवतम,
Like, like we are not reading any other. You should suggested to read Bhagavatam other than the other scriptures. That verse is mentioned, that paragraph is mentioned, the instruction that one should not study many scriptures means that one should not study many scriptures other than Vaishnava scriptures opposed to Bhagavatam.
हाँ, yes, opposed to Bhagavatam. So
Yes.
that is what we discussed actually. Opposed to Bhagavatam means which are tamasic Puranas, Rajasic Puranas, and we discussed about Mahabharata also. We should read Mahabharata in a proper way. That's why we don't allow devotees to read Mahabharata immediately. First, they should read Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. Then they can have proper understanding of the Mahabharata. So they can know some history of Mahabharata and some principles of Dharma. But everything should be applied in context with the Bhagavatam, because one has already read Bhagavatam, one can understand. So see, going going to school as a teacher and going to school as a child, both are different. Child is going to learn and teacher is going to teach. So when we are going to other scripture, we should be like a teacher. You should know what I have to gain it, क्या निकालना है, क्या समझना है, सब कुछ आपको टीचर एक चाइल्ड की तरह गए सीखने के लिए। चलो वो जो बोलेगा वो सब सही होगा, टीचर जो बोलेगा सब सही होगा, तो फिर वो गड़बड़ हो जाएगा। So one should approach scriptures others also from Bhagavad perspective. Bhagavad is it is said that Samrat, Chakravarti Samrat. Bhagavatam is a Chakravarti Samrat and all the scriptures are his followers. So they should not override the Bhagavad. So we should also first read the Bhagavad Gita, then we can go to other scripture and understand. But in that also there is not many options, like going to Tamasic Puran, Rajasic Puran, it is not allowed. No need to read, because only Sattvic Puranas are good for devotees to know. Otherwise वो सब पढ़ने का मतलब
The last line is that this injunction about big projects should be similarly interpreted. So
उसका मतलब ये है कि सिमिलरली इंटरप्रेटेड यहाँ पे लिखा है। अभी दो चीज जीव गोस्वामी पाद ने बताया, तो क्या बोल रहे हैं जीव गोस्वामी पाद बता रहे हैं यहाँ पे कि ज्यादा डिसाइपल्स नहीं रखने चाहिए। तो वो बता रहे हैं कि ज्यादा डिसाइपल नहीं रखा तो बहुत सारे लोग अथिस्टिक हो जाएंगे, जो दूसरे संप्रदाय में चले जाएंगे। सो इसका कहने का मतलब है कि चीप डिसाइपल नहीं बनाना, जो अनक्वालिफाइड लोग हैं उनको डिसाइपल मत बनाओ। फर्स्ट मेक देम क्वालिफाइड, लेट देम फर्स्ट फॉलो, देन यू मेक देम डिसाइपल। So there is no question of making many disciples. Okay, this is one. Second, yes. Second is this: many scripture means one should not study scripture other than the Vaishnava scriptures. So other than the Vaishnava scripture, one should not study many scriptures. Okay. Then the third is big projects, matlab other than the Krishna's temple, Krishna centers. अदर देन कृष्णा's टेम्पल, लाइक somebody तो अपनी बिग बिजनेस, लाइक प्रभुपाद से पूछा गया था हम अगरबत्ती का बिजनेस कर लेंगे प्रभुपाद, या टेम्पल का वो बनाने के लिए, ये सब बनाने के लिए, तो ये सब काम में नहीं करना चाहिए। ये सब काम में नहीं। नाउ somebody में से दैट गोविंदा आल्सो, गोविंदा कर लें क्या, गोविंदा, तो गोविंदा कर लें, तो गोविंदा पूरा डायरेक्ट नहीं है, क्योंकि उसमें क्या है, मेनली खिलाने का है लोगों को, और उसमें कितना भक्ति रहता है, भक्ति तो उतना भी नहीं है उधर, है ना, बट पीपल हैव टू वर्क। So we should understand such kind of things. But for temple, for where direct preaching is happening, uh, and other services are happening, for centers, youth centers or congregation centers, where directly related to preaching work, celebration of festivals. So for them, one can work hard. For that, get land and other things. But again, coming to projects like opening a big company, opening Govindas, one should be careful. इसमें थोड़ा सा वो कंपनी तो एकदम आउट में चला गया, गोविंदा तो थोड़ा बीच में है, कंपनी टोटली आउट हो गया। सो फॉर दैट वन शुड फॉलो द प्रीवियस प्रिंसिपल्स, जो पहले बोला गया कि ज्यादा उद्यम नहीं करना है उसके लिए, है, ज्यादा पिछले के श्लोक में दिया कि जितना आपको चाहिए जरूरत उतना अर्थ कमाना चाहिए, वो भी मना नहीं किया, ऊपर बोला गया व्यवहार में कि जितना अर्थ चाहिए उतना आदमी को कमाना चाहिए, ज्यादा भी नहीं कम भी नहीं। तो ऐसा ये सब ध्यान रखना चाहिए। एंड इट इज क्वाइट ऑब्वियस, डिवोटीज के 16 माला करना है, उनको 4 नियम करने हैं, प्रसाद खाना है, घर की भी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज हैं, तो इतना सब करते करते उनका समय ही निकल जाता है, फॉर एवरी वन, फॉर ब्रह्मचारी और फॉर गृहस्थास, फॉर सन्यासीज। सो वन अल्टीमेटली रियलाइजेज कि मैंने बाबा ज्यादा लेके बैठ गया हूँ मैं, बहुत ज्यादा हो रहा है, बाहर के काम ज्यादा हो रहे हैं, तो समझ में आता है कि अरे अगर ये ज्यादा लिया तो फिर माला नहीं होगा ठीक से, फिर मंदिर नहीं जाना होगा ठीक से, तो then one has to reduce those things. One has to reduce. So better is to take guidance and take some endeavor under guidance. ऐसा कहीं कहीं भी बड़े बड़े भक्त हैं, जैसे कुरेश कुरेश भक्त थे, वो शुद्ध भक्त थे, उनका बड़ा प्रोजेक्ट है ना। भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर का भी आप लाइव देखेंगे तो ज्यादा उनका जॉब नहीं था, ही वॉज क्वाइट फिक्स्ड अप, ज्यादा जॉब मतलब समय था उनके जॉब का ये से ये, एंड अदर टाइम्स ऑफ द डे ही यूज्ड टू बी एंगेज इन डिवोशनल सर्विस। So yes, one has to work for at least 8 hours. हम्म, हाँ, ये 8 आवर हमारा कंसेप्ट है, सनातन गोस्वामी तो बोलते 2 घंटे ही काम करना चाहिए। 2 घंटे में तो ये जूम का लेक्चर देंगे बस। 2 घंटे में जूम का लेक्चर और सैलरी आएगा तो अच्छी बात है, लेकिन ये इतना आसान नहीं है। तो देश काल पात्र के साथ समझना चाहिए, अभी ऐसा नहीं पॉसिबल है। है ना, सभी को सभी भक्त बन सकते हैं, भक्ति सबके लिए अलाउड है। One has to see where one can fit to gain one's livelihood in an easy way, and that also should be in honest way, not in other way. And especially Kali Yuga has become very dangerous. It is bringing out such kind of occupations which does not include much honesty. हम्म? ज्यादा ऑनेस्टी नहीं, कहीं ना कहीं से ये छिपाना वो छिपाना, इसको, और सरकार भी लूटने वाला है और लोग भी सिंफुल होते जा रहे हैं, तो दोनों केस में ये सब इश्यूज हो रहे हैं। लोग सिंफुल होंगे तो सिंफुल जॉब्स बढ़ेंगे, क्योंकि वो लोग ही सिंफुल हो रहे हैं, और फिर सरकार भी टैक्स खींचेगी तो लोग उसको बचाएंगे तो फिर चीटिंग करेंगे। सो इट इज हैपनिंग लाइक दैट। हरे कृष्णा। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। उपदेशामृत भक्ति रसायन सिंधु की जय। हरे कृष्णा।